if they play these players $200 million, right? That must mean you're worth billions to your owners. And I was like, damn, I never thought about it like that. Like if the owners will pay LeBron or any of these people fucking $100-something million, what does that mean that they're worth to them?
That means just in jersey sales alone, they're probably making 10 times that amount of money just off of their jersey sales.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. Like, you know, when you really think about it, everybody's, and that's what that's what Kanye was going on about. Like, you're a slave to the system in that way. Even you thinking like you've reached the pinnacle as a basketball player or something like that, but you really playing for the man. You're a job holder is what you are. Like, you an employee of the National Basketball Association.
Facts.
And that's like, even if they paying you all that guap, you feel like, oh yeah, you're getting chump change. You know, you're getting, and we down here, we look at him, we're like, damn, can't believe he cashed in for $160 million 5 years. To them, that's like, we pay everybody that. We pay an entire roster of 11 men that.
Eminem goes and drops a diss track on MGK, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that diss track gets 330 million views.
Yeah.
Now, he gets paid by his record label, not on the amount of views on YouTube.
Mm-mm.
Okay? Like, Eminem doesn't own that profit stream.
No.
I bet you Universal or Def Jam or whoever owns his shit owns that profit stream.
Yeah,
so now he makes that song. He probably gets a check cut and he gets residuals.
Oh, he gets.
But that motherfucking record
He getting
label,
his 2%.
He getting his 2%. And that record label, that's all fucking profit. They don't have to pay YouTube to put that video up. That's all profit.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
I love LeBron James. I'm a little biased here, but when I look at his situation compared to some of these other guys, I understand the moves that he made. I understand completely. And I even give him credit, like I said, like how you gonna take these teams, man, and just keep trying? Just keep trying, bro. Just keep banging and banging and banging until you got Cleveland a fucking ring. The first ring that Cleveland got in so long, dude.
And that's what we'll be talking about in today's podcast. Why and how we choose our heroes and how that molds and shapes our reality.
That's true.
Welcome to another episode of Three Averagely Intelligent Dudes.
Welcome back.
Some dangerous ideas. This is going to be a really fun episode. We're going to talk about a little bit of this idea that we talked about before about creating a kind of Mount Rushmore of heroes and how, you know, just how the hero's journey or how we look up to mythos characters and people in society and kind of raise them to a level of celebrity or status, and then how we kind of emulate that, or this how we use that to shape our own like selves. And so I think we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff, how people get to that,
you choose your heroes. Do your heroes choose you? I mean, there's a lot to go into,
and what that means in the context of, like, I guess how you view the world. So I'm definitely excited to get into it today.
College football coaches. Nick Saban.
Yeah.
They don't even pay their players.
Yeah.
But Nick Saban's getting tens of millions of dollars in contract.
Fuck that. The whole system. The fact that they don't pay those players. The fact that they're making just as much as the National Basketball Association and revenue and all this and profit from those players, but then to have them weirdly worked in some type of slave contract.
Not even to mention they can't sell autographs.
No, they can't do anything.
Not their likeness.
That's
not
insane to me.
Yep.
And I always wondered why that. Like, why? Like, what's the point in that?
They're winning Olympic gold medals.
Yeah.
Think about that. Anthony Davis was playing when he was in college.
Crazy.
He was playing in the Olympics.
That's crazy.
And he was.
And can't sign no endorsement deal.
He's standing next to LeBron James, who's getting paid all that money, and Anthony Davis is like, "Hey man, can I bum a 20?"
Well, to be fair, LeBron James didn't get paid to go to the Olympics either.
I'm saying though, like,
I feel what you're saying.
He
gets endorsements off that though. He's on Wheaties box for sure, making guap off that. And it's fascinating. It's like they want to preserve the rules of life. Like, well, you picked the college career path, and you're not allowed to collect paydays until you get out. You know what I mean? Like, just to make sure you know the difference between going to college
so you know
and
your
working,
place in society.
Right?
You're a worker.
Like you're a student right now. You're not allowed to make money.
That's why Melo went to Europe. That's why a lot of players, like, they don't go to college. They go to Europe because they get paid. They get the same kind of experience. And then they, a couple of years in Europe, playing in Lithuania
Yeah.
or whatever, and then you come back.
Because I mean, as a basketball player, that's the only thing you're looking for is that extra time to
you
develop.
might take a hard foul from like a Bosnian center though, and
And
break
the
your femur, and
yeah.
then you're done for.
But
That's
that
true.
happened to you in college too. You
That's
could
true.
just blow your ACL.
Some
right there on
Zion
the
Williamson
field.
kid,
Yeah, but like-
just step on you.
Yeah, but like all of them are between the ages of like 18 and like.
Oh, I
20
feel what you're
something.
That's
saying.
true, you're playing with
35-year-old
grown men.
man.
But if you got like a 36-year-old 7-foot Bosnian guy hacking you every time you come down the lane, you know what I'm saying?
is Yusuf.
His name is Yusuf Maharsnovic, and he just hacks you and fucking.
Yeah.
I will say though that the worst part about all of that for me is the fact that the way the colleges and universities like reconcile this is they say that they're on free ride scholarships.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, at
Yeah.
the most, that's a couple $100,000. I mean, even
Mhm.
if you're playing for like BYU, like if you're playing for like the top NCAA basketball association Division I teams, I mean, your shit isn't worth how much you could be making.
You know what
Like,
you know what that's like? That's
your
like me
college
being
education,
that's
which
like-
is inflated, by the way.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, that's like, hey, you intern for me for 2 years, and I'll give you a copy of my book, free.
I'm gonna tell you all
of
this
charge. I won't even charge you for a copy of my book. Signed.
It might be
I'll
used.
sign
It
it.
might be used. I might have read it.
Like-
Page might be a little
like-
crinkled.
You're not even giving them anything of real value. That's perceived value. Like you already own the school. Like you can't. You know what I'm saying? That's
Funny.
like, and I'll give you love and respect in return.
Yeah.
It's like, what
I'll
the
let you study all the things I want you to study for free.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna send you right into the workforce, buddy.
and
You're
in
gonna love it.
return, we'll allow you to play the game of that you love. Like it's like, nah, stop it.
Fuck out of here with that bullshit.
Yeah, can't do it.
I'd have gone straight into the NBA.
I need better margins.
Like LeBron did.
Yeah, straight up. Kobe Bryant.
You gotta be really good to do that.
I mean, it's true.
Get
You
drafted
gotta
straight
really
out of high
be. You
school.
gotta be. I mean,
You
that's
can also
true.
be Lance Stevenson and do it.
That's true. I forget
Well,
about
you
that.
can either be really good or you can appear really good and then end up not being.
Hey, that's a
good.
hustle in itself, though.
It's not a hustle. It's just there's it's like the transition between like soccer. If you come up like your team gets. Norwich is a good example. Norwich is back and forth over the last few seasons a lot because they're just too good for the championship, but they're not good enough for the Premier League. So they come up and then they get relegated immediately, and then they win the championship and they come up and then they get relegated again. And it's like some people just don't have what it's like. They're really good at where they are, but if you take them somewhere else,
Yeah,
they fall apart.
they're like a medium T-shirt.
Yeah.
Like they're not a small, they're not a medium. They're a little too tight.
It's
but
like
then
an
they're a
in
little too
between, and you're
loose.
like, I can't tell if this fits well or not.
Yeah.
Like, do I need to lose weight? Or is this shirt too small?
Yeah, and this happens in everything. Like you said, it's like being a big fish in a small pond or a small fish in a
Landon
big
Donovan
pond.
syndrome is what the fuck that is.
Yeah.
When
Did he
he's a-
ever make the try? Or
He
did
tried
He,
it.
just
He went
away?
to Everton for half a season,
Yeah.
twice I think. Because what it was like he would play the season in America, and then when the American season ended, it was like January or something, and then the transfer window would be open for the English Premier League. So Landon would go play for Everton for like half a season until MLS started back up and then come home. So he's playing like year round. And I think he did it twice. But like he just wanted, and that's what I hate about that era of American soccer. Nobody wanted to go to Europe and fight to be good. They wanted to sit in America and be the best
And just
player on the
cake.
Chicago Fire.
Yeah.
Fuck out of here.
Cake.
That's fucking weak shit.
I can't remember if it was.
I'm all about that life. Top dog, Chicago Fire, baby.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Like I got
What up,
everybody
Chi-Town?
fucking- yeah.
Challenge
I
yourself.
got all my
Fucking-
bitches. Got my favorite
No,
restaurant.
fuck that.
Everybody knows me.
Go to
Like-
some
I mean, that'd be
no-name
like
German
saying-
team and struggle to
and
get on the
rise
first
and-
team.
Fucking Augsburg.
That's
Go
what
to
I,
Hoffenheim
that's what I
and
love
try to
about-
break into the starting 11, you pussies.
That's what I love about some of the greats, though. Like you said, they didn't like ask to be traded or nothing. They just, this the team I'm on. Okay, we're gonna start winning now. Like
I
doesn't
feel
matter
that.
what's in here, what's already doing it. Like then nobody be like, oh man, I got stuck on the Pelicans. That sucks, man. No, it's not. Guess Pelicans are a national championship team now. Let's go.
Hey,
Drag
Pelicans,
your ass to the fucking
guess
Drag
what?
your ass no matter what I
We
gotta
about
do.
to win
Hey,
championships.
y'all better start buying pieces around
Look
me
at
because I'm
LeBron.
going straight to the
Look
top.
at LeBron.
Yeah.
Wait, he got put on the Cavs. What did he do? He said, give me a Delonte West, give me a Mo Williams, and give me an Anderson Varejao. I'm going to take you to the fucking
He got
playoffs
frustrated
every
and
year.
he quit though.
Hey, look, how many times you going to bang your head against the wall before you're like, this shit ain't budging?
I mean, I feel you. I'm just saying, like
six-
he can't earn that respect of what I'm talking about
weird
like the
thing is-
Kobe or the Michael, where you go to a team and you stay with that team. Kobe was a Laker for 20 fucking straight something years. Like, he
Yeah, I know
never-
that, but it's not
not
like they
once
were shit.
switched up. But that's what I'm saying. It's not like the Cavs were shit. They got to the playoffs every single year.
They were shit. He dragged a shit team to the playoffs
yeah.
every year.
I get what you're saying. Like they built, but my point is that's the thing. Those people didn't make that excuse, right? And maybe whatever you got lucky or whatever you want to say, and they had an ownership that wanted to put the pieces around them or whatever. But I think, dude, if you look at Kobe was like, please get rid of Shaq. I want this to be my team. Like it wasn't like they were like, I don't have the right pieces around me, man. It was like he was like, get Shaq the fuck away from me. I'm a win. I don't need this motherfucker. He's slowing me down. Now, of course, it's not a winning mindset for a 5-on-5 game of basketball, right? And Kobe learned that over the years. But my point is, I was saying like kudos to those guys because I would be like that. You know, like personally, I would look and like be like, man, got fucking drafted to the goddamn, whoever's like, that sucks,
To the 86 Bulls,
yeah,
goddamn.
Like,
goddamn
these dudes are trash, man. Like, I'm
kudos.
good. I want to win.
I give kudos to all those guys, but I give kudos to LeBron because not only did he stick it out in Cleveland and try to get that ring for those first 5-6 seasons. After he went to Miami and won his 2 rings, what did he do? He went right back to Cleveland and he won them a ring.
Yeah,
and he
did the
everything.
Joe Biden. He was like,
Oh,
I just gotta appoint this black woman vice president one time just so I can get it out the way, and then I'll go back to some real ticket shit. Like, so he was like, look, I just gotta win me a championship, guys, because like I need it for my own personal ego. So I'm gonna leave y'all for a second. I'm gonna go get mines, and then I'll come back for you. Don't worry.
I want to know how many NBA players have rings with multiple teams where they were the best player on the team. Because like you got people like what's his
Robert Horry?
Yeah, somebody like JaVale McGee's got multiple rings in multiple teams.
Shaq.
Yeah, Shaq. Well, Shaq's a different one.
He got
Shaq
one with the Heat, and he got him with the Lakers.
He was
too.
arguably
kind of like MVP.
It depends
He
on
was like the
how
best.
you. Yeah, I was about to say it depends
Literally
on
one
what
of the
you
best.
value in the game of basketball. Because Shaq, I could make a strong argument that Shaq was the best player on every team he played for, including the Orlando Magic.
I've done this.
even though he didn't really win anything.
I'm thinking more like Danny Green. Like Danny Green's got a couple different teams. He's a role player.
Kawhi Leonard.
Well, Kawhi's different because he's like a star. I'm talking like.
Oh, you're just talking about role players that end up on different teams and win.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, I'm talking more
Horace
so
Grant.
about. I'm talking more so about like those are one category, but I'm talking about someone like LeBron. LeBron got a ring in Miami when he was.
He's a superstar though.
That's what I'm saying. He did it in Miami, got a ring, right? Went to Cleveland, got a ring.
Yeah.
Went to LA, got a ring. So he's brought championships to 3 different teams. Where if he wasn't on those teams, with the exception of maybe the Miami Heat, those teams would not have gotten rings without him.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying like rather because I think what you're saying, you're pointing at the fact that a lot of the star players win most of their rings with one organization. Correct. They don't tend to be spread out that far.
Yeah, Dirk Nowitzki didn't spend, get 3 rings for 3 different teams.
Yeah.
Kobe didn't get 3.
Neither did Tim Duncan, Tony
Neither did
Parker,
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Yeah, I mean, so like you're right.
They're all dynasty
That
teams.
would be an interesting statistic to see, like who has the most rings at the most teams, but were also superstar players.
Yeah, like starting players, superstar players, like because not role players. Because I think there's a difference between like a superstar player.
I
and
would
like
say
a role player.
I would say that LeBron's the first to do that. I mean, I don't know superstars like that. Like I said, I know some who've won on multiple teams because they got traded later in their career. Also too, a lot of times people don't. This is new. Right, this is a new phenomenon that we're having where James Harden can just be like, I don't want to play here anymore. I want to go over there with my friends, and they'd be like, oh, okay, cool.
Well, yeah, Kevin
like,
Durant.
That didn't happen in the 80s and the 90s and definitely in the 70s and 60s. You know what I'm saying? So like that's just a new phenomenon of being able to move around like that, but then also that being valuable too. Like I think we value dynasty back in the day, like that you could win 6 or however many in one place, because like you said, it goes back before Larry Bird.
Yeah,
it
goes
like
to other sports too. Ryan Giggs stuck it out with Man United his whole
100%.
career and won all his trophies with them.
That's a new hybrid of this person who can win, and like you said, that's a level of championship too that I believe in. Like that the championships follow me. Like I can win anywhere, but I do think it lends to what we see now where everybody's trying to do that thing where they create a super team so that they can win,
Well, I mean,
like,
we've been seeing it now for maybe like 15 years or so.
Yeah.
I mean, because you look at the big 3 in Boston,
that really kind of kicked it off for me,
yeah.
honestly. When they, because not that lots of teams didn't have big 3s, right? But they were the ones that even coined that phrase where like literally like we're going to build an entire team around these 3 players that play each of these roles. to the best, and then 2 support players, and we're good. And then I think from there you just saw it all the time.
Yeah, and
like,
we even,
now people talk about that. Who's your big 3?
LeBron and Dwayne, which I mean you could say like Bosh. So that was kind of
you
a
can
big
say
3.
Bosh.
But I'm saying
absolutely say
but
Bosh.
but if you look at the Lakers who won the championship last year, it's just LeBron and AD. I mean those other 3 players were okay. Who were your starters there? You had
just AD. I mean, I'm
LeBron
just
and AD. Yeah,
those are two like star caliber players.
they're 2
and
of the
I bet
top
you
5
I don't know
players
their
right
I don't
now.
know
I
their
got you.
whole I don't know their whole roster. But I bet you that you could plug another name in there.
It's like 2.5.
But then
Caruso
also
for me.
too, here's my thing. Like think about Phil Jackson. Like when he talks about winning, with Kobe, like Kobe Bryant, Pau Gasol, Lamar Odom,
Derek
Ron
Fisher.
Artest, old Derek Fisher. Like these were not like superstar players either. Like Pau Gasol was, and Kobe Bryant was, but Andrew Bynum. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah.
but these are people
John
who
Stockton.
they were because you can build teams.
Yeah.
There's teams where you have a deep bench, or you have like good role players, or like some everybody works well together.
Milwaukee
So,
Bucks is a prime example right now where you've got the best player in the world, maybe second to LeBron James,
Yeah.
but it's a give and take there because they're different people. But you got Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then who else you got on the Bucks? Sweet Lou, he ain't there no more. I mean, who you got on the Bucks?
Lopez,
Nobody.
dude,
I can't believe he's staying with the Bucks. I was laughing. I was like, man, it's jokes that the younger Antetokounmpo brother got the ring first. Giannis should have won. He should have got the first championship.
But
That
he
man.
re-signed with the Bucks.
That's what I'm
telling
saying.
you.
I'm like, where?
But because he's on that different, he wants to be on that different shit.
He wants that
He
Milwaukee
even said,
go win,
He even
baby.
said, did you watch his moments after? He said, I wanted all that shit to shut up. He was like, I just want my team to focus on winning championships. I was tired of listening to all the, because he signed an extension like a year early and all this
Yeah.
stuff. He was like, I was tired of all this. Like, is he gonna go? Like, I don't want my team focused on that. I want my team focused on winning. And I was like, damn, fucking that type of respect. You know what I mean? I have respect for that type of leadership or
I have-
just dedication to like
I
a
would-
sinking ship or like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna fucking run, like
So,
change this myself.
Let
Like, I
me
love that
ask you
will.
a question then. Why is it? Because to me, it seems that this logic could be applied to a very similar scenario in the sense of the country that you're born in, because you have absolutely no control over who drafts you. As a matter of fact, if you're the best player around, it's very likely that you will get drafted to a shittier team because those are the teams that get the first picks in the draft. So, like, you're very much against the idea of like having a lot of pride for your nation and doing a lot of crazy stuff for your nation, sticking around or adopting its views because of the fact that
You were just born.
you were
there.
just born
Yeah.
there.
Mhm.
And so why is it any different? Like, oh, well, the Milwaukee Bucks just drafted Giannis. Why should he feel some sort of obligation to the city of Milwaukee if he doesn't,
Yeah,
I'm
if
just
he
saying
doesn't
like
vibe
that.
with them or
It
whatever.
was very
Yeah.
interesting when you were citing the reasons behind your
Mhm.
logic, and I was like, wow, this is a lot like the discussion that we've had multiple times about the idea of
Mhm.
like national
Nationalism,
pride
yeah.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And
Yeah,
it's
because I
like-
do not
because
believe in that.
I wouldn't like. Personally, for me, I like the idea of sticking with the organization that you like and stuff like that. So maybe he likes the people in the Milwaukee organization
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But like, for me, I wouldn't make any grandstandings on just the idea like, I'm just gonna make it better now. Like it's just gonna. I know it sucks, and I'm just gonna make it better. And, like for me, that just doesn't seem like anything that I personally resonate with. I very much more resonate with the idea of like, yo, like Milwaukee's treated me real good ever since I've been here, and I mean that might be what it is, but I was just interested by that.
No, I definitely buy into that, and what you're making is like a total shift in my perspective because you're right. They just get drafted there,
You just
and if
get
you
drafted.
don't fuck with that place or you don't like those people or that organization,
yeah.
and you want to bounce,
Milwaukee?
that's fine. That's fine. I feel you. Here's my only counterpoint. Right? How often is that cited?
It's true.
You know, like did LeBron go to Miami because the weather's nice and he wanted, this, and that, or did he be like, I want to win? You know, most people when they're moving, but James Harden maybe is like a different story where James Harden was like, yo, I'm just not happy here and like the way y'all are treating me, the way you're building this team. So, I mean, I feel you if that's their intention, if they're doing it because they are not happy in that place, whether maybe they're far away from their family or something, and like they were born on the West Coast or some shit like that. I could see that. I definitely could see that. And I definitely think you're right in that sense too. Like, why would you have some type of loyalty or like, whatever to just the team you're drafted to.
I would say this.
Right.
It's the same way I look at it. It's individual to the fan scenario. So it's individual to the player scenario. Because you have someone like LeBron who got drafted to his hometown team.
True.
Gave it everything he had straight out of high school for multiple seasons. Brought him to the finals against the fucking Spurs when they were beasts. I mean, gave it everything with Anderson Varejao playing center. You know what I mean? And then he was like, all right, I'm going to go to Miami. I'm going to play with my best friend, and I'm going to play with a really good center who can shoot the ball because that's what he needed. And he won 2 titles in, 3 seasons?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, he's a different case than Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's a different case than Kristaps Porzingis or any of these other superstar players.
I feel that.
And now if you look at what he did compared to what people are doing these days, they're doing exactly what he did in Miami. Like the move from Cleveland to Miami, they're doing it everywhere. Kristaps Porzingis said, "I don't want to play for the Knicks anymore. I want to go play with another superstar."
Right. Like
so
I said, that's like a whole new thing.
I mean,
now.
the Nets look fucking
Yeah, now
crazy
you got
right now.
the
The Nets look but I mean, the Golden State Warriors look crazy before anywhere.
Well, right before
anywhere
everybody's
Kevin
ACLs
Durant
blew out.
goes, it looks crazy.
Well, that's
Yeah,
Kevin Durant might
Anywhere
be the
Kevin
only
Durant-
other person that
It
can make
looks
that
insane.
statement. On the stats with LeBron that we were talking about.
He
the
tried
idea-
with OKC. He went to the
tried
finals.
with OKC. He got there a couple of times. It really,
And
I
he
think
tried to
what
stick it
came
out with them
down-
for a while too.
Yeah.
I think it came down to the him and Russell Westbrook thing.
yeah.
I think that was just like
In the end,
poisoning in the locker
he
room.
started the locker room. I think the locker room started getting like
Which
not
is
a good
strange
situation.
because some people are mad professional can get over that, and my mind immediately goes to Frank Ribery and Iron Robin at Bayern Munich. I mean, they fucking hated each other.
Yeah.
They could not stand each
But
other.
they just did business.
But I mean, like they were part of the most winningest. Bayern wins. They just keep winning. But I mean, they won like 5 titles in a row with each other.
Hey, what about
and you despise the other man?
What about LeBron
There are a
after
lot more
game
players.
1 against Golden State the year before he won with Cleveland? I think he won with Cleveland 2017 or something. But when he was in the finals, it was like 2016, something like I don't remember the years. Motherfucker, after J.R. Smith fucked up that game 1 win that they had in the bag, LeBron went into the locker room and broke his hand punching a fucking dry erase board. I mean, that man right there. And then what did he do next year? He came back and gave J.R. a fucking ring. You see what I'm saying? Like, man.
Like, so what about LeBron? Like you're saying, like you just fuck with the way he's done it, you know? But
I can tell you,
basketball is an interesting one. I mean, I know all 3 of us, none of us are like you're probably the biggest basketball fan of all of us. You just kind of started getting into it a little bit, yeah or no?
Again, I mean, I used to be a bigger fan when I lived in San Antonio, but I
But
haven't watched it in a while. I mean, I've kept up with it. Sort
fair
of.
weather fans, and we're fair weather fans. You guys more than me of soccer as well, you know.
I
is
think
another one.
there's a good
Football.
difference between me and Mac in the sense that like Mac supports San Antonio because of a geographic closeness. You know, it's like it was your city. It was, you know, I chose LeBron completely on basically chance. Like I wasn't following LeBron in his first couple of seasons. I went on mid-tour leave from Iraq and had to fly home. And when I was flying home, it was during the playoffs where I think they lost to the Spurs. So I caught like game 1 or game 2 of that series in the airport waiting on a connecting flight and was like, that fucking guy's amazing. I knew about LeBron because of the Video Music Awards. He showed up at the VMAs one year when I was watching it in like high school.
He did a song with Drake.
Yeah, like he had this big lion shirt on. I just remember like, oh, basketball player. He's like 18. He's huge. He looks amazing. And then I see him playing like game 1 or game 2 against the Spurs, and I was like blown away by his athletic ability. I was like excited to watch. I'd seen basketball games before. They weren't exciting to me. I watched that game, and I was like, that fucking guy is amazing. So then I watched game all the way through that series, and I just latched on. You know, like it grabbed me to where I think I had made it home when they played the last game of that series, and you know the Spurs ended up winning the championship, and I was invested in it. I really wanted LeBron to win. I knew all the players' names by the end of that series. I knew all those guys, man. And from that point on, it was LeBron. Wherever LeBron went, whatever team he played for, I was like, I fuck with that guy. Because every time I watched the game, he never disappointed me. He always had the energy. He always had the fucking explosiveness. And to this day, like, he'll have a bad game, and I'll watch a game with LeBron. I'll be like, okay, LeBron's
what about
having a
all
bad
those
game,
years where people were talking about him melting in the finals and stuff, and like really like breaking down in playoff series and stuff? Even that series I think you're talking about with
I still followed.
But for you to say like he always gave the energy and he was like always like explosive,
I'm saying,
like every time you saw him, or do you think that you took on kind of like a rose-colored glasses on him?
I mean, I'm sure there was a little bit of that, but it was like when I would turn on the TV and I would see LeBron play, which in the early years when I was kind of following him, it was mostly just playoffs. And, you know, sometimes he did melt in the playoffs, or sometimes he did get beaten down by Boston or something like that, or San Antonio when he was with the Heat when they lost that series. But even when LeBron melts down, you know, he's still out there putting up those shots. He's still, you know what I mean? Like he's out there giving.
He's still obviously the best player on the
exactly.
On the floor.
He's always going to be the best player on his team. And even to this day, I mean, he's playing next to Anthony Davis, who's younger, who is scoring more points than him, and I still think he's the best player on that team at 36 or 35.
I definitely, in the longevity scheme of things, you know, there's some of these guys that have really been out here doing this shit for a long time. But I can't help but notice that and I guess we're going to be kind of psychoanalyzing each other a little bit today through our choice of our heroes and stuff, because I think that is how it works, you know, is you resonate with people. You don't quite know why at the time, but if you start digging, you start kind of noticing. Maybe you guys, I know I do. For me, I'm like, LeBron to me looks like a great physical specimen. So like he has a lot of explosive power and a lot of energy and a lot of raw ability. And not to say that he hasn't put in work, because he obviously has. Like that's what's created what LeBron is, right? But to me, he lacks some of that mental fortitude. You know, like that's what to me what draws me to players or to anybody. I'm a sucker for an underdog. You know, I love to go for the little guy.
Your favorite player is Michael Jordan.
Now, yeah, for sure. But I mean, like, if you give me two teams to go for, then I'm probably gonna go for the guy who's the underdog.
Yeah, I always like to see the underdog win too.
But I mean, and I think that's why, like, you look at Michael Jordan too. He's not the strongest. He wasn't. I mean, he might have been the fastest. He literally might have been the fastest, and he definitely was the most talented person with a basketball, like hands down. But is that something that's talent, or is that like maybe he's blessed with like extremely good hand-eye coordination, you know, is what I could see like his talent being. But he had to really work his body. He talks about his story, like when he first came in the league, he was good, but he wasn't great, and that was because he wasn't physically strong. You know, he was like kind of lanky and you know, was really relying on those reflexes and the hand-eye coordination. But my point is, when I look at Michael, the reason I fuck with him is not because he's the super talented player, which he is. He's blessed with that talent, so I'm not like negating, like, talent's dope. But for me, the part that I'm like, that's that fucking shit, like, God, because there's a lot of talented players.
It's the entertainment
There's
factor.
a lot of players.
That's what I like.
You like that,
the entertainment
and LeBron has that in spades. You know what I mean? Like you said, like he's gonna hit you with the super monster dunks. He's gonna make these crazy plays that, you know, and like you said, he looks like a monster out there. You know, it's like watching a gladiator fight when I watch him like storm a lane or something.
Good family man.
Giannis
too.
is like that too. But mindsets me like Michael had this ridiculous burning drive to like succeed or to like win, and that's all he gave a fuck about was like the winning part of it, and that resonates with me because like I'm like, all right, well that's kind of like how I feel, you know. Maybe I'm not always doing it as well as Michael does it, but that's how I feel like I am, you know. And that's interesting that you do bring that up, because like for me, like you said, that's something I value. And then you value entertainment and like being like
absolutely.
Like a funny person, or like having, you know, like you just value entertainment, and a lot of people do, and I see that.
It's why I used to like the Denver Nuggets in like the 2009 2010 era, when they had like Carmelo Anthony and J.R. Smith and Birdman. And, like, they had this very entertaining team that when I would watch them play, I'd be like, damn, this is getting me out of my seat.
That's why the Spurs, that's why I couldn't get down with the Spurs. You know,
I will say, like, watching
boring.
the Spurs is super boring.
Yeah.
And, I mean, honestly, the only reason that I was a Spurs fan was just because those were the games. Like, I've only ever been to live NBA games that were Spurs games. Either that or Globetrotter. Well, they weren't in the NBA, but you know what I mean, like Globetrotter games. But, yeah, like the Spurs were the only games that I'd gone to. And, you know, back in the day, my friends, like family, friends and stuff, had season tickets that they would give to us every once in a while. So I would go see a game, really fucking great seats every, you know, like, once every couple of months or so. Well, that's not true. Like once every 6 months or so. You know, like twice a year. And so once for me personally, once I find like a team that's like my team, like I appreciate other players and stuff. Like I fucking love Carmelo Anthony. Like he's one of my favorite players of all time. But I mean, he just never played on my teams.
Yeah.
And like I'm very much like the Jerry Seinfeld when it comes to sports, like different shirt. Like it's all about the shirt for me. Like, I don't really care. And that's why I like the Spurs today. Is it's like when I got back into basketball, I was like, oh, okay, well, it'd be cool to like watch some basketball. And immediately my mind was like, what's up with the Spurs? You know, like that's the basketball I remembered. But yeah, but I think that kind of plays into my personality too, like the fundamentals and like the kind of boring routine technical
yeah, very
stuff.
technical
like it's just like I love seeing a good passage of team play when the Spurs play. Like I like, don't get me wrong, when LeBron comes through doing like a 360 dunk in some dude's face, like it's fucking awesome.
For me, it's the fast breaks.
But the fast breaks are great, but I mean I don't like those as much because you know, it's like it's not even like contested. Like they get to do some really cool stuff, but I'd much rather see Shaq like put his nuts in some guy's face, like right up on him, than have like it be like a dunk contest at the other end of the court. Because like that's why I watch the dunk contest. Like
for me, it's the kick out to the 7-footer who drains the 3. Like
that's a cool
shit.
part.
Woo, God.
But yeah, so I think that I wanted to ask you a question though. For like, was there ever a time when you were like really not fucking with LeBron, but that you were like really disappointed? You know, like were there times that you can remember where like maybe he didn't provide that entertainment, maybe in times like in the finals like Rod was talking about or something like that, where you were like really wanting that really good performance, and then he came out and was just like
I would say when he was playing alongside Brandon Ingram and I can't think of his name, Josh, I think it's Josh Hart or something like that. But he had a couple guys he was playing with. Lonzo Ball, he was playing with his first season with the Lakers before he got injured. Yeah. So that first, I'd say 20 games or something before he got injured, I remember watching all those games. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this motherfucker will not play defense. He will not fucking run out to the 3-point line if he thinks that you're shooting less than, X%. And he knows everybody's fucking percent because his basketball IQ is fucking untouchable. Yeah. So when he looks up and thinks, I either have to rush this guy and contest this 3, or his percentage is low enough where I can just be lazy. And I felt like that first season with the Lakers, he did not think he was going to be able to get them to the playoffs, or he would have to have kind of drug them there. Right, he didn't trust his team.
And he's been there before. He knows what it takes to get to the end.
He did not trust Brandon Ingram. He did not trust Lonzo Ball. That's why he traded those motherfuckers away that season to get the players he needed, like Danny Green and JaVale McGee, to make a run at the title and then win the subsequent year. But yeah, that first half of that season, or that first like third, before he got injured, I thought to myself, like, man, LeBron, what are you doing? I mean, he was playing point guard, and he wasn't playing point guard, excuse me. I think Lonzo was playing point guard, and he wasn't doing it for me. He just wasn't, his system wasn't right. His defense was off. He just didn't have the explosiveness. He still, every game he played, scored more than 10 points every single night. So he still held himself to a standard that is above a lot of other players. But he just didn't give me that extra
He knew what he was capable of, and he wasn't going for. And I think, like, where your question lends to this, too, and I don't know if this is where you're going to take it, but it immediately pulls. This is the flaw with picking people as, like, and not to say LeBron's, like, one of your heroes, because, like, I know Michael's mine, and we haven't talked yet about
basketball hero.
What our, like, Mount Rushmore is, and I think we'll get to that. So right now we're just kind of talking sports heroes. But, why when you pick a man, they're flawed. They're inherently flawed. That's why a lot of us look to mythical heroes and stuff, and like this is why we've always looked to like gods or pantheons or superheroes. They're the ideal with no flaws, or even if they have flaws, they always overcome them. Because like Michael never let me down in the sense of like the winning thing or whatever. But when I found out that he wasn't like this really empathetic leader, that took a lot of the sauce off of it for me, because I'm like, I like to win, but I don't like it at all costs, and I think that's where he was, and I don't possess that laser focusedness, so maybe that's like something I just don't have, so I can't relate. But when I heard that, I was just like, dang, like he's not like this super ideal that I have in my mind, right? Like he represents, and I think that's why the Rushmore is important, because especially in anything, in any hero, but no one hero like really can just like get it right for you all the time, you know what I mean? Like, no man gets it right all the time. So it's just like, it sucks to watch those people let you down sometimes too, for sure.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the focus of my side of it, but that actually I was just curious to hear about since he was saying that his was all about entertainment, because I think for you and me it's more like because it's
Well, I want to hear what
there's
it
really
is
no
for you.
heuristic for
Because I wonder, you're the only one out of us that picks teams, though. Because like I'm not a team. I have no team loyalties. Like I love Michael, but I'm not like a Bulls fan.
Yeah.
And I've picked teams in the past, but I was bandwagon. Like you said, I was kind of like you, where I was just like, oh, it's the playoffs, and then like I ended up being a Celtics fan because at the time I deemed the Celtics less like likely to win than the Lakers, and I was just like, Lakers always win. I like the underdog guy. Of course, little did I know the Celtics always win too. So it's like, you know what I mean? But just we were living in
winningest.
right, but we were living in an era where it was the Laker dominated, and it was all
Right.
about Kobe and stuff. And this team had just put together this big three, and we're getting. So it's not like I didn't know basketball like that at the time. So I was like, underdog, these guys are cool, and then I just stuck with them and I rode them out for a while, which they were winning and they were champions. And then they got rid of the players that I liked though, and I was like, well, I don't really care about the shirts. Like I was invested in these three heroes, but you pick the teams, and like what? Because you're a Chelsea fan, die hard. Doesn't matter who puts suits up for them. And I never watched you be like, keep track of other people like that outside of your team.
Yeah, no, I mean I have like an admiration for other players, like I said, and there's players on other teams that I would really love to see play for Chelsea or the Spurs and stuff like that. But I don't know, for some reason there's I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. That's a good question.
It is interesting.
Because you're right. Like, as I think about it, a lot of people are like, especially in the modern time, like, because of the movement of players so frequently and stuff like that, they're player fans. Tom Brady fans or Peyton Manning fans or, like you just like certain players and you follow them wherever they happen to be. I tend to, like, if a player moves from Chelsea, like Eden Hazard's a great example. I love Eden Hazard.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he's still one of my favorite players of all time.
Cristiano Ronaldo and David Beckham. Both
Well-
of them wore the 7 for Man United, and I fuck with them. Even though they went to Real Madrid, I still fuck with them, dog.
Yeah, I fuck with them. Well,
But you don't want to see
there's
Real
certain
Madrid win,
things-
though.
No, I do not.
Yeah.
No,
so-
I
yeah. And I
absolutely do
also,
not.
but really what I was going to say was that I don't care about him at Real Madrid at all. Like, I don't check in on his scores.
So, like,
I don't. I know I've been hearing that he's been doing bad. So I mean, I feel for him, but like I really don't care because he doesn't play for Chelsea anymore.
I wish to God Cristiano Ronaldo would come back to Man United. and wear number 6
I
shirt.
do not. I do not think that would be a good idea as a Chelsea fan. I just Ronaldo should stay
Just
where
stay in
Ronaldo
Italy.
is.
But
Stay in Italy. Yeah.
Something that interesting that me and John talked about, and so he'll have a little bit input about this too. But one thing I noticed about you, I was telling him the story about how you became a Chelsea fan. Right?
Yeah.
And then even listening to you talk about how you became a LeBron fan. Something about sometimes it's about an experience that we have that links to this
I feel
that then becomes like a catapult for it. Like this is me and you were watching 2008 finals.
2012.
12. Okay, 12. And anyways, so I'm watching Chelsea. I'm a fair weather Chelsea fan, as I tend to fair weather a lot of teams. This is a theme of this whole conversation. And I was on this Chelsea bandwagon just to oppose you. So this is interesting how this whole thing plays out, right?
I'd like to start with how I became a Man United fan.
Yeah, then
to
run
how
the
you
story
became
all
a
the way.
Chelsea
To,
fan.
it literally goes around the
Yes.
table to how he becomes a diehard.
It all begins with FIFA 05.
Yeah.
Okay? Me, I was introduced to soccer by Alberto Sosa.
Yeah.
He chose Liverpool when we were playing FIFA.
Scouse. Fuck.
So my reaction was to choose the rival. So who's the rival of Liverpool? Man United.
Yeah.
So, well, the good rival of Liverpool, Man United.
Right.
So he chooses Liverpool. I think it was like maybe the Fernando Torres era.
Yeah.
I choose Wayne Rooney and Man United.
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm a Wayne Rooney Man United fan, just like that, because someone chose the opposing team and I wanted to be the other.
Yeah.
Right. So then it becomes me and Rod playing FIFA. So who do I choose? Man United. Who's one of Man United's biggest at the time, one of their biggest rivals? Chelsea. You become a Chelsea fan. It's that simple. It's they chose this, I chose the opposite. Then
But
I
then-
bring that opposite to you. You choose the opposite.
But why did you identify with Man United? Like, why did you ride that all the way off for another 10 years? Because like you said,
Wayne Rooney.
Wayne Rooney,
Wayne Rooney.
and then you kind of like you got caught into
I
the
got
culture.
caught into
yeah,
it, yeah.
like once you kind of get introduced to it, sometimes you just get bought into the culture. Because like I said, I started off as like Michael Jordan, but now I'm super Phil Jackson fan. Like I'm super into like the whole mythos of that entire team and like the role players. And then I do kind of be like, the other day I was looking at some Chicago Bulls jerseys. I was like, maybe I get a Bulls jersey. I mean, fuck it, Michael Jordan. Whatever.
Yeah.
But you get kind of sucked into the culture. But it's interesting though. It's based on that rivalry. Like you said, I picked
rivalry.
Chelsea. It wasn't about the sport. I mean, it is. I guess why do the sports? It's about the rivalry for them too. And I think as fans, we also like to. That's my team. That's my team. All right. Well, now we're like have a rivalry.
I'm gonna
against
beat you with your
yeah,
rival.
my team's gonna beat your team, and you want like that healthy kind of rivalry with your homies.
Competition.
Yeah, but then it switches though because me and him don't have a rivalry, right? So then it's like now
That's funny because I don't think about that at all.
Yeah,
Like that's not how I've picked any sports team or affiliation I can even think of. Really, like you said, it is about the experience for me for some reason because the story progresses. He becomes a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
And he's a Chelsea fan for I don't know how long. And then one day
3 or 4 years.
like 3 or 4 years. And then one day I'm staying at your place over the summer in Austin. And it just so happens to be the Champions League final against Bayern Munich in Bayern Munich's home stadium. And so like Chelsea was a super underdog, obviously, in that. So that kind of played up to your standing and everything. But
great game.
Great game.
Great.
And now that I look back at it, at the time though, I didn't know what was happening. It was the most boring thing I can imagine. But I just remember him going crazy. You were losing your mind. You were screaming and jumping and yelling, and I was like,
"What am I?
Nobody's even scored. Like what? I'm not sure. How is he so tense? Like I could feel the tension, but I had no idea what it meant. Like how it was coming to be, and like I guess." My curiosity in figuring out like why was that such an intense game that only had 2 people score goals at the very end of it, like how did that end up being so crazy? And so then through watching more soccer, and since it was Chelsea that we were rooting for, I was like, all right, Chelsea, I'll just keep watching them. It was like an easy in, and then they like satiated my curiosity, and then for that, I guess I just rewarded them with my loyalty. I was like, good on you for explaining soccer to me.
Yeah,
Chelsea
I'll
fan.
ride with you now.
Yeah. And that's the same thing with the Spurs. Like I said, like if you had been rooting for Bayern Munich at that time, I'd be a Bayern Munich fan.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Same thing
sure
like
of that.
our father
if,
was.
Yeah,
with
like
Spurs,
if my dad, like if we had lived in Dallas instead of San Antonio and we were going to Dallas Mavericks games instead, I'd be a Dallas fan.
Yeah.
But I'm not because of just
But
the circumstances.
then you're kind of like that. You're born into it. Like you.
Yeah,
you
like
will
if I
take
was,
your like
I'll
whatever's
take on
bestowed
the home,
on you.
the home team. Yeah, like it just so happens that my team, the teams that I got kind of inducted into,
Fit you.
are 2 like not only fit me, but they're 2 like because I get called a bandwagoner too. They're like, oh, you started watching Chelsea when they won the Champions League, and I was like, yes, but I didn't know what that meant. So I mean, like that's like saying that I'm a Spurs fan because of Tim Duncan and all that, but I didn't know who Tim Duncan was when I was at the games. Like I was just like, yo, this is my dad and me
cool
are at the game.
experience,
Like it's cool.
I
like,
keep thinking back to if Sosa had chosen another team.
Yeah.
exactly.
Like if Sosa had chosen Man United, I'd be a Chelsea fan.
Yeah.
You would end up being a Man United fan, and you'd be a Man United fan. Like
Yeah.
it could have happened like that
could have
based on the
easily gone away.
trajectory of whatever team that man chose.
Yeah.
If he had just randomized, who fucking knows who he'd be? But
It'd be
the-
Barca fans.
But this brings me into this concept that I've been thinking about a lot, where I chose my heroes, my heroes chose me, however you want to say it. But Kanye sucked me in, and I thought about it hard the other day. I thought about, would I be the same artist? Would I be the same? I would be an artist. I think that Kanye didn't make me an artist, but Kanye has definitely influenced like how I think about music and how I think about art and experimentation and what he's done with his albums. I could talk about him for hours. But the point being, if Kanye had died before Through the Wire, then would I be making the same kind of art? Would I be the same type of artist? And that's a tough question for me. It's a tough question for me.
Yeah, Kanye. If I don't think that you'd be the same artist, obviously, because something I've learned as I've gotten more into making art, right, and like making things and doing things, I realize how much you don't ever have original ideas. You know,
Yeah,
like
facts.
you think you do, and you think you're doing just like this so revolutionary thing,
Brand new.
but it's so all been done before.
It's like walking
Everything
down a road
is-
and you think to yourself, I am trailblazing
I'm blazing.
down this road.
Right.
I'm blazing a trail.
Right.
Millions
Yeah.
of footsteps have come before
Up and
you
down
on that path.
Yeah.
Thomas
And-
Sowell has a quote where he says, it's a great quote in my opinion, but he talks about how there's nothing older than the idea that this is new.
Yeah, facts. You know, and it, not even from I mean, I'll take it both ways. You do practically rip each other off, so we all see other people and be like, I'm going to do that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
But even subconsciously, everything you know about art is what you've consumed in art
From
you
other
know,
artists.
from other artists, right? The fact that you even know what a song is because you've listened to other songs.
Yeah.
And so you've built, that's your knowledge of the thing. So it literally, the influence is built in there.
As
When
Obama
pe-
said, you did not build that.
Yeah, facts.
You
facts.
did not create that.
Facts. It's just kind of ingrained. It makes you.
Yeah.
I think that's why this process is so important of analyzing who's making me, you know, because that's what it is. You're consuming these people's content. You're idolizing these people's stories or whatever you're doing, because we're all doing it. I don't care who it is. I've seen people who hey, shout out some of our followers. They fuck with the Golden Girls, you know, like
I
all
fucking
types.
love the Golden
Yeah,
Girls.
there's all types of heroes. I've seen people pick business leaders and spiritual leaders and, you know, comic book characters and gods or history, like figures in history. But we're all picking some figure and we're in their shit. And we want to know about them. And we want to be like them. And we want to, you know, study them, right? And so you got to think about that. Who's making you, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's cool. Again, did you choose Kanye or did Kanye choose you? Like, how
So-
did that work for you?
I don't exactly remember the nexus of my love for Kanye.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I think I wasn't really listening to mainstream rap. I was more into, at that time, kind of, you know, like, for example, Raekwon's Only Built for Cuban Links was one of my favorite albums before I got into Kanye. Same with like Dead Prez's Revolutionary But Gangster. Like I'd be introduced to a song like It's Bigger Than Hip Hop, and then I would go look up the band and I'd be like, I fuck with this band now because I like mostly it was messaging, right? And I joined the Army. And right around the time I was joining the Army, I started getting more into mainstream rap, Ludacris, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I heard Through the Wire, and I was just like really into it. So then I was like, okay, so I bought Kanye's first album. I think his second album is already out. And so I'm like that. When I find a group or I find an artist, I try to listen to or just get everything they've done. It happened to me with Mike Skinner in the Streets. It happened to me with Gorillaz. It happened to me with Daft Punk. Every time I get into a band, I go back and listen to everything. And I usually like the first two more, or, you know, the early stuff more than the later stuff. So I remember Kanye, it was Late Registration came out. And I heard
Great album.
I heard him say, nothing's ever promised tomorrow today. And I remember I had a Nokia phone. And it was one of the first phones where I could take a video. And I was like doing these little videos of me rapping along to Kanye. And I was like moving the camera so it looked like I was shaking my head and shit. And I was just in it, man. I knew every bar to every fucking song on those first two albums, man. And I was just like, this cat is the fucking shit.
Yeah.
He's the shit because I love the messaging. He reminded me of myself. He was a little too cocky. He had a great sense of humor, and he was fucking smart.
Yeah.
And like, I know I'm like building myself up, but like that's what I saw in myself at the time.
And
Yeah.
I saw myself as the shit. I saw myself as smart, and I saw myself as funny.
Yeah.
So he hit on all three of those.
Right.
Because Ludacris had like two of those. He, you know,
Did you see yourself as an artist?
At the time, I would have never said it. Looking back, I've always been an artist. But at the time, I would have never.
At
said
that time, you weren't like.
No, sir.
Yeah, had it identified.
I was
But
rapping
I
at the
w- 'cause,
time.
I
I
mean,
was drawing, but I did not.
Like we
consider
said,
myself
you
an
could
artist.
have grabbed onto sports. You could have grabbed onto violinists. You know, like you
Yeah.
could have picked, but you picked a rapper or like a lyrical artist, and I just wonder if that was part of it too. But one thing I thought that was fascinating was that you pick your sports figure LeBron for entertainment, but you pick your rapper for messenger, and that's cool.
Well, yeah, because
that's
like
cool.
when it comes to rapping, I don't think of rapping so much as just the beats or just like the hook or whatever, or make you dance or the bass line. To me, rap is poetry.
It's poetry.
Because I've always been a lyricist. I've always been into poetry.
Yeah.
So when I would listen to Luda, I would like the funny bars, but I didn't give a fuck about any of the other stuff he was saying because he wasn't, in my head, the most lyrical guy.
Right.
But when I picked up Dead Prez, who are insanely lyrical. I was obsessed with that, even though their message was fuck white people.
Yeah.
Their message was storm the White House and kill your masters. And I was like, I'm an African.
Yeah.
I'm an African. Like, I was into that
Yeah,
shit,
he
even
just
though it
loved it.
had no that message did not resonate with me. But I fucked with the lyricism. I fucked with the I've been working all my life and ain't got nothing to show. Like, all these fucking, like, just amazing combinations of poetic lyrics. So that's what sucked me into Kanye, because he had that, but he also had the humor, and he also had the ego, and he just had the full range for me.
But he was like you though. Yeah.
I think that's really what it comes down to for pretty much most people's heroes, you know, because the thing, like, we all like ourselves the most. We think that the qualities that we embody are the best qualities for people to embody. We think that they're the best way for people to act and be and stuff, like, you know, like, we just inherently have a bias towards ourselves. And so the people that you see throughout history, media, stuff like that, that are most like you in whatever interesting fields, those are the people that you tend to gravitate towards, because it's very rare that you're going to have a hero of yours that's completely anathema to your personality. And I think that that's shown in all of ours. You know, that's why Dead Prez isn't, like, the lead singer from Dead Prez isn't your hero.
Yeah.
That's why it's Kanye, because although you fuck with Dead Prez's music and you like the lyricism and stuff like that, it's not you.
Same with Daft Punk. I fuck with them so heavy. One of my favorite bands, possibly
You're not a
my
French
favorite band.
douchebag.
Yeah, I'm not it's not the type of music I make either. I'm not an electronic singer-songwriter.
Right.
You know, and same with, like, all these other musicians I fuck with. I'm not an acoustic, folk singer, but I love Paul Simon.
Yeah.
But he's not my hero.
Yeah.
No, this is an important conversation or thing that about this hero talk too, because it's like that. Like, you can fuck with a lot of people. Like, you can fuck with a lot of people's art. You can fuck with a lot of people's personalities and things like that. But I think the difference between a hero and somebody you fuck with is you don't want to be like those people. You know, your heroes, you want to be like those people.
That's a great
You know
point.
what I mean? Like,
Great
you want to.
This is a distinction that we made when you first asked me about the Mount Rushmore question, and you would assume that somebody like Thomas Sowell or somebody like Jordan Peterson would be on my Mount Rushmore because of how influenced I have been. And as I thought about it, I would say, no, those people really wouldn't be my heroes, because I don't want to emulate them. I just like their ideas. You know, like, they're just a vessel for an idea that I agree with, that I think is correct or whatever. But I don't think that, like, I don't try to act like Thomas Sowell.
Can I interject here though, because this is something that we were also talking about the other day. I sent you a video about how Mac is this thing called a Sigma male. And I didn't know what
I've
this.
never heard this term.
Never heard this term before in my entire life, but I came across a video where it's like talking about Sigmas, and Sigmas are just that lone wolf character, the ones that, like, if Alpha and Beta and all that shit are for people who are trying to fit into a hierarchy, what about those people who don't go into the hierarchy? You know what I'm saying? Who have no interest in being in a social hierarchy whatsoever. And then that's him and the lone wolf. And so I'm not surprised that you pick the team, and that you also, like you said, those people are just vessels for ideas, because you're not really trying to be like anybody. Like, I mean, that's not something that you would identify with. And yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's just not really in his wheelhouse. Like I definitely, like, have people that I'm looking up to and want to be like and emulate and take direction from and all these things. But then you're not really like that though, you know? So as a, like,
that's
a temperament.
true. I mean,
you know?
I have, so, like, in my notes on my phone, I have the 7 values and my 7 principles. Those are, like, the basis for my new field manual that'll be coming out at the end of this year, Max 7 and 7.
Looking forward
Excited
to
for
it.
that.
And then I have 7 role models underneath that. And this is just in, like, my little topics to write about notes. And in those role models, like, I have the name, and then I have a quality or a characteristic next to it that I really care about in the person, which is really, I think, what you're getting at, is that you're right. I really don't try to act like my heroes either. I try to embody the characteristic that I have associated with them. So
damn deep.
Yeah. So, like, you know, and that's why people like Thomas Sowell, like, you know, like, he doesn't have a characteristic that I'm trying to embody. Like, I just like the way that he looks at statistics.
Yeah.
That's really the only reason I like Thomas Sowell. And, like, far be it from his political perspectives, it's just the idea that like
the way he's analyzed
the way that we analyze data, I think is flawed mostly. And he has shown me that like there's a whole nother set of layers underneath what we see when we see data. But like I don't try to act like that, you know. But at the same time, I don't try to act like one of my characters, Marcus Aurelius. I don't try to act like Marcus Aurelius.
But you want to be like
the characteristic that's next to Marcus Aurelius is that his power for reflection. That's what I take from Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius's ability to stop and reflect upon his own actions and emotions and his biases and stuff like that, even though he was in the position of being the most powerful person in the known world, the Emperor of Rome. And I mean, he lived up to an incredible standard if everything that we know about his life is true. And I mean, that's hard to say, but if that is true and he was this outstanding, honorable man with that kind of temptation, and I think that his power of reflection that's illustrated in his book Meditations is the sole reason for that. His ability to be like, I'm being selfish right now and I should not do that. That's not the best thing I could do for the state of Rome. And so he would put that to the side and do what was better, what he felt was best for his society and stuff like that. So I think that the idea of the reflection is what I pull from him. And so there's characteristics that I'm really looking for. And actually somebody asked me one time, because I have some fictional characters in my Mount Rushmore and on my role models list.
Some would say I do too.
Yeah, well, it depends on how you consider the word fictional.
Yeah.
But you know, like I'm talking about like cartoon characters. Like one of them is Roronoa Zoro, who's a cartoon character from my favorite anime, One Piece. And his trait, like somebody was asking why I choose fictional characters. And I said the reason I choose fictional characters is because, like you brought up earlier, real people are fallible, you know? Like there's so much depth and complexity to real people that, you know, they're not perfect and they're not really a good barometer of like the ideal person.
They're not really ideal.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. I'm like, look, Michael Jordan's a terrible tax attorney.
Yeah.
Like, really, he's just good at one thing.
Basketball.
Like, that's all
He's
it
not
is.
even
Like,
really a good people
It's not
person.
even like, right, he's not a good people person.
He
He's
might have
not
been a shitty dad.
You know, like, he might have actually had a gambling problem. Like, we don't really know Michael Jordan, the person. We just know him as this really incredible basketball player. And I just wanted to interject that there because that's so true. Like, these people just do one thing, and that's not, and it's about the boiling it down to qualities. But go ahead. I mean, like,
yeah, and so I think that when somebody asked me like, well, what about, for me, the idea of a fictional character is that it's a crystallization. You know, it's certain characteristics that are embodied in an archetype, if you will, that don't tend to change. You know, like it depends on how long the story is and things like that, but the character tends to have a framework within which they operate, and it would be
that defines them as a character.
They have a clear arc usually as well, whereas in real life there is no clear defined arc.
No, there's no beginning point that you can point to or end point. Like people are so amorphous, and so I was saying like that's kind of one reason that I have some fictional characters, because I feel like they're a good crystallization of the characteristic. And they said, well, what if the creator of the show or the art changes that character in some way, in a way that you don't agree with anymore? And I said, well, that really wouldn't matter to me. I would just go find some other person or character that embodies that, and I would just use that, because it's not about the person. It's about the traits, the characteristics that we, like you said, for you have a basketball hero, but not because of his basketball skills. It's because of his mindset. It's a mindset thing for you with Michael Jordan. Whereas for you, it's like about story, and it's about entertainment, and it's about his legacy, if you will. And, you know, like, it's hard to say what his mindset is because it really wasn't super focused and defined as far as, I mean, he wants to win.
What got me too was everyone said Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. And then LeBron started winning titles. Because that's what they said about LeBron. If he's going to ever be the best, he's got to win titles.
He's got to win titles, yeah.
He started winning titles. And that really, I latched on even harder. Because at that point, he's the underdog.
A little bit of the underdog coming in there.
And so I'm like, not only is this guy super entertaining when I watch him.
And he is the underdog. Don't get it twisted.
He is, absolutely. Because but if they were playing at the same time in the same era, it would be much more of a and B 50-50.
It'd be an easier comparison.
It would be much easier. But since you have the, what would you call it, the hindsight of Michael Jordan.
Right.
But you don't have the future sight of LeBron, then it's always going to be, well, LeBron's got to catch Michael Jordan. Even though LeBron has passed Michael Jordan in so many other records, everyone's going to keep pointing to those rings until LeBron gets his sixth.
So funny that you mentioned that, though, because I don't think it's not a finite game. I was listening to Simon Sinek talk about this, about infinite games versus finite games, right? And how we as society we need the rings, right? Because the rings are a number. That's data, right? In order to actually compare or analyze these people, we need data.
It's measurable.
Right, it's measurable. And so we like that shit. But it's tough sometimes because it's like Kobe Bryant only won five rings. Michael Jordan won 6. But I'd be tough pressed to say that Kobe Bryant isn't as good, if not better, than Michael Jordan is, right? And so it's like, and then you throw LeBron in that conversation. LeBron could very well have already passed that, but he's now trying to pass the legend of Michael Jordan, right? Like, it's not about the rings.
Michael was trying to pass Bill Russell.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And you
Larry
use data.
Bird,
You use data to. So like you said, he did have to win championships, right? Because we want data. But then now it's like he's got the data because he's surpassed Michael in a lot of categories. A lot of people speculate the only reason Michael Jordan allowed them to make that documentary, The Last Dance, was because he felt the pressure of LeBron on his legacy, and he wanted to remind people like, hey, don't forget that I was that shit in my time.
I would put money on that.
Like,
because
me too.
From what I've seen of
Michael, he's the type.
He's
the
uber
type,
competitive.
right? Even from
not
retirement, he's like, don't y'all dare compare him to me. You know,
Yep.
he'll never say it out loud, but you can tell. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
he's going. And I tell you what,
Very
if LeBron,
narcissistic person.
if LeBron wins 7 rings, Michael's going to turn into a pillar of salt.
He'll be upset. He'll be upset. I mean, you know, and definitely then the conversation starts. I mean, the conversation already started because there's so many people in there. Like you said, Shaq could very well have been one of the best players of all time.
One of the best centers of all time.
He's definitely
for
that,
sure.
hands down. But he could have easily been. I mean, he was just as prolific, if not more, than
He just couldn't hit those goddamn free throws.
free throws to
Yeah.
save
He
his
just couldn't hit those
fucking
goddamn
life.
free
Like,
throws.
what
That
the
is-
fuck, my
Nobody
God.
gave a
Lack
shit that he
of-
couldn't hit a 3 because they were like, look, it's
No,
not a
it's
big
not.
deal.
Lack
but
of
you
preparation.
have to hit those 3
That
throws.
is lack
That's
of preparation.
lack of preparation.
That is lack of wanting it.
But-
Shaq did not want to be the best player ever, or else he would have fucking shot
He
them
would have
free
done that.
throws
And
every
this is
day.
where Kobe's argument was. Kobe was like, dude, sometimes I feel this. Like, he's like, I could not get. He was like, if I could have got Shaq to focus, we would have won 6 rings. You know, it was like literally like because Shaq liked to have fun. You know, that's one thing when I was reading Phil Jackson's book and
personality.
stuff. Basketball wasn't everything to Shaq.
Nope.
You know, it's like that was just one part. But this motherfucker would be writing movies. He would be like doing all these side hustles. Like he'd start businesses. He would be doing all this shit that
Yep.
Shaq was interested in and thought was
Shaq,
fun.
You could tell in the way that Shaq played the game. He was a post-up center. Feed me the ball on the inside.
Bang it
I'll
in.
turn and
Yeah.
just he didn't
Bang
even
it.
have to jump like you said. He just kind of turns and jumps.
did.
And you could tell like it was one of those things where like you know how some people just like you just know they're gonna go in the military, and that might not be all they do, but you're like this dude's gonna be in the military.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of Shaq. Like when you seen him as a high schooler, you're like this dude's gonna play in the NBA.
Yeah.
And he was probably like, I could play in the NBA. Like
Yeah.
you know
I might as well do that.
I don't know anything about Shaq's story, but I would be willing to say that I imagine that he did not put in the kind of effort that somebody like a LeBron does or somebody like a Michael Jordan does, like as far as like on the back end, the training, the practice.
Because like you said though, I don't think
like you're right. Shaq's out there having meetings and shit and eating brunch
and doing fun,
playing with his
and
kids
just,
and shit.
yeah,
and
doing other shit,
driving
He'd be
around
jumping
Buicks.
around on trampolines and shit. Like,
Yeah. I don't know
so
about that.
I mean, you know, but I think that's true though. But that's what it was in Phil Jackson's book.
Oh, because I was about
He
to say,
said
I
he
was like,
came
that's
home-
a robust
Dude,
trampoline.
he said he came home and Shaq was just in the backyard jumping on the trampoline with like, I don't know if his
In
kids
Phil
were
Jackson's
there.
home?
Like, yeah, Phil Jackson's home. So funny. You gotta read that book. It's a good book.
I do.
It's a
I've
good
just
book.
got. I'm
11
trying to.
Rings,
I'm
dude.
slogging through this.
11 Rings by Phil Jackson. It's probably co-wrote by somebody else, but anyways, it's a brilliant book, and it talks about all these people, like you know what it was like coaching Michael Jordan and Kobe and all these stuff. But my point, the whole side tangent, not that we give it really that much fuck about Shaquille, but the point is you don't put him in that conversation, but you don't ever felt like he was trying to get into that conversation. He talks about it, but he wasn't pursuing it at a level like LeBron or Kobe or Michael or
And I feel
Magic or Larry or.
And I feel like LeBron is pursuing it at a level that no other person in basketball has pursued it in a long time.
Yes.
And I would say this too because
Since Kobe Bryant.
Well, even with Kobe Bryant, he played one position, and he stayed. And you know what I mean? Like
I mean, that's what his talent was, though.
exactly. But with LeBron, he wants to show people that his talent is not just a strong forward or whatever. He played point guard last year and led the league in assists. His first year as a point guard.
You think he did that though to distinguish himself?
I think
as, like,
he
one
did
of the
that because
best,
the
or?
team needed him to play that position.
Right, that's what I'm saying too. Like Kobe was never asked to play point guard.
And
Like
if
they
he-
tried to put him in point guard, and he wasn't good with
But
it. 'Cause he's
exactly,
not
and
a
I was
good
going to say,
ball
but if
distributor.
same with Michael Jordan, if they had just said Michael Jordan played point guard, he probably would have been pretty good at it. But would he have led the league?
No. Well, I mean, it just wouldn't have. He's not a facilitator, right? Like he just doesn't play that position.
Yeah.
It's like trying to put him at center. You know, it's like you. So
Well,
like
he's just saying he's bringing up the versatility
that
aspect.
LeBron has that. Like
Yeah.
LeBron can play 1 through 5 or whatever, and
Yeah.
that's super dope. But I would just say like I guess that didn't seem like a good example to support the argument that he's going after it like no other player has. Because Kobe went at it's a mindset thing, like a mentality of like you really want to be the best player of all time.
It's funny.
wants
you can
the
see.
records.
You can see.
He wants to be the best.
You can
He already
see
said
the
it. He thinks he's the GOAT.
reflections. Here, people. I'm gonna have a little sidebar with the viewers real quick. You can see in them the way that they look at their heroes in the way that they're arguing for them. And
Oh,
you're
yeah.
like, it's a mindset thing. And he's
Yeah.
like, but look at how many awesome positions he can play.
Yeah.
It's entertaining. He can play all these other
Yeah.
positions. It's so fascinating. When I heard you guys going back and forth, I was like, he's talking about
You
the
should've heard
entertainment
us.
of
You
watching
should
a
have
man
heard
play
Drake
all
versus
these.
Kanye earlier.
Yeah, you should
Yeah.
listen to us argue
Because I
Drake
didn't
and
talk
Kanye.
about, but the overarching conversation of that too is it's the principles of the matter, right? As
Right.
somebody said, that's not principle. It is. It really is. It's like it's not about Michael Jordan versus LeBron. You know,
Yeah.
it's not really about Kanye versus Drake. They can't be compared. They're playing infinite games, like we talked about. There's there is no legacy difference. It's like, what do you resonate in those people? You know, like what do you see out of those people? Because it's all interpretation too. Like when you look at LeBron, you see something different than what I see.
Correct.
And same thing with all these things. It's all relative. So, but what we're distilling and what we're looking for is an ideal in ourselves that we're trying to reach or trying to master or trying to provide or something that just resonates with us, a vibration, you know? And it's cool to do that because sometimes we do that. I think a lot of people like stuff and you don't know why you like it, you know? You just be like fucking with somebody so heavy, you know, it's just like, man, I fuck with this person. You know, you got their posters on the wall and shit. And it's like, why? Why that person? You know, because in that is a chance to learn about yourself. You know, you start, like you said, you can see like, why am I so passionate about this? Or like, what am I arguing for when you're sitting there talking about so-and-so's the best player all the time? Like, you're not really arguing for somebody's stat sheet, you know,
Yeah.
like you're arguing for some type of ideal. And it's powerful to know that. I mean, it's fun to argue about the stat sheets too, right? You know, which ideal is the more valuable ideal, right? Like, what's the better hierarchy?
The stat sheet is merely a vehicle through which we can make arguments,
To
as
ma-
far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. It's
It's
just
because
data. It's just
otherwise you're like, you're just saying, I think this, and the other guy says, I think that,
Yeah.
and then the conversation's over.
It's
Yeah.
like the
And
economy.
so, like,
it's
you
like
need the
j-
stats
yeah.
to be like, well, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah,
It's like the economy when you talk politics or the job rate or the home,
Yeah.
unemployment rate. It's like you
Yeah.
use those to be like, well, the Democrats are better than Republicans. or,
But
we
But
should
he
all-
has a
yeah.
better field goal percentage.
Yeah.
but he has a better shots from the
Yeah.
three, like whatever.
Yeah.
Stat.
And that's
you know?
funny though, is that when you bring up politics, is like in the sense that I'm not like team oriented when it comes to politics though. Like I'm more about
The guy.
well, no, it really
I'm
has
about
nothing
the
to do.
policies.
It's about the policies. for me. I don't
policies.
give a fuck. Like that's why I fuck what Jason Stapleton says when he's like, if you stand where you stand with liberty, I stand with you. And so he's like, if Bernie Sanders came out tomorrow and was advocating some sort of bill that I agreed with, I would support that bill. And I would support Bernie Sanders in that bill because I want the shit done that's in it, not whatever Bernie Sanders stands for. I don't give a fuck why he wants to put this bill in. But if he's laying out something that I think that I agree with, that's expanding people's personal liberties, then I fuck with that.
People know
and I
that-
fuck with Bernie Sanders for doing that.
People know that I don't fuck with Trump. But if Trump had come out and said, I want Medicare for all.
Medicare for all.
I want free health care for everybody. I want college
like, I fuck
tuition.
with that.
I would be like, I now, by proxy, fuck with that man because of the policies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm the same way when, I remember when AOC, people just were like, she's so dumb and she's young.
Yeah, they
she doesn't
just
know
really
what
don't
she's
like her.
talking about. They don't like the person. But
Yeah.
when I look at something like the Green New Deal or her ideas on all these other things, I'm like, those are ideals that speak to me. Those are policies that I think could be implemented if done properly and make this world a better place. So I fuck with those. By proxy, I fuck with her now.
It's the quality. It's the qualia. I was just listening to Jordan Peterson, one of his podcasts about different philosophy. I think it was Boss and Ben Swanger. Can't remember exactly which ones, but it was phenomenology, and he was talking about the idea of qualia, and like qualia is this like it's the subjective part of reality, you know, the entertainment of LeBron James, the quality of the entertainment, the intangible, non-measurable part of that. And so like the qualia of politics is like the policies, you know, like it just depends on what you think.
If you think it's right or wrong,
yeah. And so then by proxy, it's the people. But even in politics, it boils down to a characteristics. I think if you're thinking about it rationally.
And I would love to expand this into a larger conversation about this too, because is it always the message or is it the messenger? Because this happens a lot when we talked about, like you said, you avoid men to, or like regular people to, sorry, I keep using the word men, just, you know, habits.
Humans.
Yeah, but you don't pick people because they're fallible, right? And then that's trying to avoid poison from the messenger. We talked about like Vermin Supreme one time and about how, you know, you fuck with him on the surface, but then you don't know because he might have proliferated messages in the past.
Yeah. Fruit
and
from
like,
the poison tree is how I like to think about
right,
that.
when I heard you talking about that right there, I said, actually, if I'm being completely honest with myself, I don't really care about the policies. Like, I don't pay attention enough. So I have no fucking clue what any president has ever done. Never. I don't know a single, I mean, you know, minus the things that I've studied for this show and like the loose amount of
just kind of talk in the
right,
in the
you know, it's like
space.
spitting the shit.
Yeah.
But when I get
like
down to the
Obamacare
nitty-gritty,
and
like
shit
you
like
think
that.
I've ever read a law? No, the first time I ever read a law was on this show.
Yeah, Green
you know?
New Deal.
So yeah, facts. You know, so I'm not in it. To me, I look at the person, I'm like, can I trust this person? I think we talked about this one time about like so and so if The Rock ran for president, I was like, I'll vote for The Rock. You know, like why? I just feel like he's gonna do a good job. I just feel like he's gonna try his best. You know, I have no idea what that means. Because I don't know what it's like to be president. I don't know what kind of policies you got to do, what kind of decisions you got to make, kind of things you got to, you know what I mean? Like, there's some things you got to do that we just can't even comprehend because we don't understand the brevity or the levity, of the position. But to me, I fuck with the person. It's like, can I trust you? Like Marcus Aurelius. I follow that man in the battle. You know what I mean? Like, I follow that dude in the battle. Like, I trust that man with my life. To me, I have to just trust the quality. But then it's like, you know, sometimes people can present qualities. You can end up falling into a cult of personality like we talked about, where this person's presenting all these qualities to lure you in and entice you into thinking that they're trustworthy, but then they just fuck off
it's
on
the
your policies,
the snake oil salesman and
right?
stuff like that. And so like I would say that, you know, if The Rock ran for president, he's got a better chance of getting my vote than anybody else, just based off of his name recognition and what I know about him, because you're right, I do like The Rock and his personality. But for me, I would reserve it until I heard what he said he was going to do. Because, like, I'm like, hey, look, man, I love The Rock, but me personally, I don't like the idea of Medicare for all. So if The Rock came out and was like, I'm going to do Medicare for all, I'd be like, oh, sorry, Rock, I can't vote for you.
This is really good. Yeah, I feel you. Like you said, I know what you mean when you said it like that. Like, because it is measured on the data, right?
like you're making an assumption of what The Rock would do as president based off of what you know about him. But if he came out and was like going to do all this shit that you completely abhor, then you're not going to be like, well, I love The Rock, so I guess
Or if he said he was going to do a bunch of shit and then ended up not doing that shit, you don't get my vote the second time, right? Like, he's definitely
4 more years.
Like, fuck The Rock, dude. He let us down big time. So it's like LeBron when you see him, he's 18, he's coming pissing out of piss and vinegar. You're like, this dude's going to be great, you know? But it's not like you can't say at 18 he's better than Michael Jordan.
Never.
Like, you know, you got to prove that still. That still has to be proven, you know? And I think that is a part of becoming a real hero in society, right? I minimized it earlier, but I'll maximize it now. Like, Michael Jordan is really good at basketball, okay? Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, it's not just, oh, he's just good at basketball. Like, he's extreme. Like, somebody made the joke, I wish I could be as good at anything as Michael is at basketball. Right? Like, literally, I wish I was as good at anything as he is at basketball. So, you know, you have to make proof. This is how you become your real life hero. Like, here's how you become a hero to others, I think, you know, because we're all looking up to heroes, you know, and all that stuff, and using that to mold ourselves into our own hero, you know, like it's a part of our hero's journey. We definitely got to talk about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey and that whole archetype, Carl Jung's whole archetype of that. But, you know, so we're on this journey, and I'm like, all right, I'm getting made by these people, but I also want to become one, you know, and you got to do something, though. You have to put the data down. You have to put the you got to build the company. You got to do something that everybody else will look to and say, yeah, that's why because we didn't just like The Rock because he was The Rock, right? Like, this motherfucker been doing shit. He's been exhibiting the qualities of trustworthiness. And then, like you said, that only goes so far. So you might be able to use that to entice me to vote for you as a president. But then if you don't continue to provide these things that I think lift you up to that ideal, you can easily fall from that.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, right? Right.
Ellen DeGeneres.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
You don't know about how Ellen DeGeneres is like the biggest bitch on the planet?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. All her people came out
allegedly.
against her.
Allegedly, I've never met the woman.
But I want to say this. I'm going to go back
that
to
whole thing came tumbling down.
I want to go back to these points that you were making about The Rock and what he's done and things like that. It made me really think about my heroes and why I chose my heroes. And I'm not going to get into my Mount Rushmore right now, but I will say I chose, or they resonate with me especially because of the things that they do, not the people that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And the writings that they release, the movies that they direct, the games of basketball I watch them play, the music that they create. Those things are what draw me to those heroes, not the fact that they're good people outside of those things. I don't look at LeBron James and think, he's my favorite player because he's a great dad. Right? He's not my favorite player because we
hang out on the weekends and he.
Or that he's trying to own the means of production in the sense of having his own sports agency, sports cast, whatever agents.
Yeah.
Sport agent, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck he's doing.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Like, well, you have an agent.
Yeah, he's
like
building
he owns.
agency.
Yeah, he owns kind of the means to that now. So like, I don't look at that aspect of them. That some of it is there. Like when I look at Kanye, I do kind of like the fact that he's a family man now. Like I do like those aspects, but those aspects are all fallible. He could get divorced to Kim tomorrow. LeBron could cheat on his wife. He could drunk drive and crash a car and kill his
What
whole
if he
family.
goes O.J. Simpson on you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when I look at them, I look at what they do, like as in the sense of their
they did,
their path,
what they've already expressed.
Yeah, or their profession. Like what are they doing in their profession? So it's like LeBron is doing these great things in basketball, and that's what drew me in. Kanye is making this amazing experimental music or whatever. That's what draws me in, and it really made me think about that when you're talking about The Rock.
I feel that. It brings me to another quote, this one by Rachel Dawes, character from Batman. She said in the first movie, "It's not who you are underneath, Bruce. It's what you do that defines you." And I think that that's what you're pointing to, is that the idea, like, it's not even really the qualities. It's like the actions.
Yeah.
It's like, because nobody
the
gives
actions
a fuck
that
what your
express
quality,
that quality.
that express the quality. Like the substance that is backed by, or the qualia that is backed by the substance of the actions and the stats. I mean, that's where the stats come into play. Like the stats, you can't say that you can't even say that LeBron could be in the same breath as Michael Jordan if he didn't have comparable stats.
Yes.
Now the stats aren't everything, but they're part of it.
They're a part of it.
You
need that to make the argument. Like
because, like we said, without them, you can't make an argument. You just have to I like him.
I think to tie all our ideas,
he dunks well.
I think to tie all of our ideas in those, it's like Tony Robbins talks about this belief action results cycle, right? Right, and that's what I think we're seeing at play here is they believe in certain ideals, right? Whether that be winning or hard work or raw talent or whatever the fuck they believe, but they believe in an ideal. They express actions based on that ideal, right? And that produces results. As long as that cycle continues to function, then you would continue to see this person elevated on the status, right? Like you can look at each thing and say, okay, I fuck with this person's mentality or their ideals or whatever.
LeBron is about teamwork.
Yeah.
He believes in teamwork.
Yeah.
So then the actions are he always drives and kicks it out to the guy to shoot the three.
Yeah.
He gets the best shot, and the result is they win championships.
Yeah, facts. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So as long as that's in tight, because like you said, if any three of those things falter, right? If any time your hero starts to touch little boys, right? Well, the actions and the beliefs and the results are all
in question.
Yeah, against everything that you keep in principle or what you value. Because we said we're all valuing different things, too.
Right.
So let's just all get that there. There is no one ideal value. Like some people value entertainment. Some people value philosophy. Some people value drama. Some people value money or fucking connection. Or right. We're all valuing different ideals, but as long as those two things are intact, I think that's what creates it, because it is about all that. Like I said, I believe in The Rock, but his actions and his results, like are you a good president, right? Like that has to play into it. So I can believe that you're going to be a great basketball player, but you still have to prove that through actions. You have to go out there and you have to play like the best basketball player.
That's why I would never
then
vote
you
for
have
Kanye
to
for president.
Put down the results. Right. You know
I
what I
would
mean?
never vote for him for president.
You got
because-
belief, but
Yeah.
the results, I don't
He has
see.
no actions or results or anything
that
like that.
show
It's just
me.
he's got a good belief system. I
Yeah.
think when he went on Joe Rogan's podcast and I listened to it.
I know what
it
he
was-
wants to do.
Yeah, I know what he
can
wants
believe
to
in
do.
it, yeah.
But he has no actionable thing.
Yeah, or like and like you said, he hasn't even produced results in that space that I
feel
can be
that.
like, he did this, he governed this really well, So it's just, that's where I
Yeah.
see that all intersectionality of those things, and you might even, for me, it's about the belief, like that. I'm more into belief than I am. You guys are more results based people, like you guys like data and stuff like that. So I think that you'll hold all those in a hierarchy, like we hold everything in a hierarchy, but in a way, you need all three of those to be working. But I also think, like you said too, that I stand with this too. What's been expressed has been expressed. It's already out there. You can't there's no take backs out here, right? Like you said, once it's done, it is done. There is no like undoing of it. And so if you win 6 championships, but then later on you start molesting little boys and stuff, that doesn't negate the fact that the championships are out there, right? Like that what's already been expressed is an ideal, and I think that it stands independent of the fallible
It's
person.
tough though. It's tough.
I
'cause
think it can.
I mean,
think it
look
can.
at the Cosby Show. Are we all going to go back and enjoy the Cosby Show knowing what that man did?
I can't.
I don't think I could. With
I
Michael
can't.
Jackson, it's murkier because there's no actual like real hardcore like here's the evidence like
He
know,
never
he's
got
been
convicted.
things like that.
There's
But-
no results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with Bill Cosby, like we all know that motherfucker did that shit.
Yeah.
Like we know that. I
Yeah.
think we can all agree at this table.
I mean, I don't know anything.
I don't know.
Well, okay. Well,
I was having a hard time. I was like,
he was
I mean,
convicted
I'm
of a crime.
pretty
of
sure
those
He was
crimes.
convicted.
He was
definitely
convicted of
say
those
that.
crimes. So if you want to go
I'm
off
pretty
of that,
sure he touched them.
yeah. If you
I
want to
would be willing to put money on that.
Yeah, if you want to go off of that, he was convicted of those crimes. So now if I go back and I watch a Bill Cosby special or the Bill Cosby show,
I can't help but
it
think
is
that.
forever tainted by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same Jordan Peterson
Lecture.
podcast, the lecture where he talked about Boss and Ben Swinger. He talked about the idea that we perceive the meaning in things and then attribute that meaning to the objects. And he used the example of an MCAT results letter. And he was like, "What are you holding when you're holding that letter?" And you might say like, "Well, you're just holding a rectangle of paper." And it's like, well, that's not really what it is because you're shaking. Your body realizes that it's something other than that. And he's like, and you know what it is. It's a portal through which you will walk into one of two worlds, one being where you're a med student and the other where you are not a med student. And he said, but it can also alter the past. And I like this idea that you talked about how as long as that system of the belief, actions, results is standing, it works. But when one of them falters, it not only changes how you think about them going forward, but it changes your perception of the past as well. Like if you find out that Bill Cosby was touching raping women the whole time he was recording that show, it makes it different. It makes it feel different. It's even more different than if he had after the Cosby Show raped some girls and that even then that's a different scenario. But now the past is literally changed for you. And he talked about how not only will you go through this portal in which you become either a med student or not a med student, but it is also a portal for your past where you were either a good pre-med student or a bad pre-med student. All of a sudden, your entire past rattles, and it's like he said it's like when you're watching a movie and then like a huge twist at the end happens, and now everything that you thought about the movie is completely different.
Like if you thought you were bad, but then your results come in and
none
you're
of the actions are different and none of the results are different. Or, well, I guess the results might be different because you're seeing, but the actions are the same, but you interpret them different now, even though they're the same. And I thought that this is kind of the same idea in the sense that
the results change the belief. It moves
exactly.
around in a circle.
And I think that it each one can change the other. It's like a rock paper
it
scissors
goes
kind
in
of
a
thing.
circle. It goes
Because
in a circle.
I think a lot of people feel the opposite than with Bill Cosby with Trump. I think a lot of people were like, I hate his belief structure. He's arrogant, narcissistic, flamboyant, all this stuff. They didn't like his personalities. But if they were, maybe they were looking at for whatever reason, I think you could say that some people looked at the policies that he implemented and they agree with a lot of the policies that he implemented, and the results would change the way that they might fundamentally understand his belief system. They'd be like, well, maybe I don't Like maybe he's just a brash kind of guy, you know, like, but clearly I like the policies that he made. And so all of a sudden you're like giving a halo effect, if you will, to his personality, which you deemed non-presidential before.
Because that's the perception is a big part of it.
Yep.
Like you're also, like you said, it's always caveated by what you think.
Yeah.
Like you think this person is that. You think Kanye is like this. You think that's why you never meet your heroes, right? As they say.
Yeah.
Like
They're going to disappoint
They
you.
are going to disappoint you. I am sorry to tell you, like they are. I think about this often when people come to meet me. I'm like, who you think I am is the grind gang and on the internet. Like that's not me, man. And so when you see that, like I'm going to let you down, not because I'm a shitty person or something, but you're idolizing ideals. Like we talk about when we put them into characters or
Your
any
digital persona is what they're
right. Yeah, exactly. With what you think I am. You think I'm positive, right? And so how positive am I really? As positive as you think I am, right? That's going to be projected onto me as the hero or whatever. And so when you meet the person who's behind that mythos, they're not that. They're not your projected ideals. They're who they actually are. And that's going to let you down. Just because
you put your
project
heroes on a pedestal, but they stand on the same ground as you.
Right, exactly. 100%. I mean, as far as real life ones, you know, which I mean, 2 of my people on my Mount Rushmore are real life people, and 2 of them are fictional characters.
All 4 of mine are real life individuals.
Yeah,
I have the same ratio, 2 and 2.
2 and 2. You want to talk about them?
Yeah, let's go into it.
Get into it.
Do you guys mind if I go first? I'm pretty excited. I think I'll just do Kanye and LeBron first. So
tell us who the 4 people on your Mount Rushmore. You can go 1 on 1, and then tell us why they're there.
Okay, Kanye is there because I see one of the aspects of my artistry resonates with what Kanye's done. I look at Kanye and I say, okay, he did, and like there's like understudies to each one of these, you know, like I chose Kanye over Mike Skinner from the Streets, not just because of name recognition, but also impact on my life. I look at Kanye, and he is everything I want to be as a musician. He's experimental, he's funny, he's smart, he does his own thing with no fucking regard for the other people's opinions. He might think about the audience and what would sell, just like all artists do, but he's making authentic, true Kanye art, and that's what resonates with me. Not all the other bullshit, not the ego or the fucking Maybachs or any of that. None of that shit resonates with me. But what resonates with me is his courage
to be true to himself.
Quick question though, I wanted to ask this earlier, but I didn't feel like it really fit. But does the fact that he does so many different forms of art also play into that? Because I mean, I know a lot more about him from his fashion work than his music. I mean, I'm a fan of Kanye's music, but I haven't like listened to his discography or anything. So does that play into it, or would you say it's mostly just music as far as Kanye?
Because you are a multi-talented artist.
Because you are multi-talented, and I was interested to know if that plays a role in how you look at Kanye, and because he does all these multifaceted things.
The thing that I like about the multifaceted things is he brings his true authenticity to them. So when he made Yeezys, there weren't other shoes like Yeezys.
True.
When he made those weird foam one-piece slip-ons, Yeezys. You see what I'm saying? Like the crazy foam one-piece thing that he was rocking when he did like an interview with Charlemagne like last year or this year. Like I fuck with the fact that he brings himself to those things.
Okay.
So yeah,
it's his authenticity as an artist overall, generally. Okay.
Now, and when you move to LeBron, for me, that was kind of like the universe put him in my path. You know, like I was just in that airport when that was playing. But what I latched onto about LeBron was he made the game of basketball like an entertaining art form. He was not just he wasn't just fundamentals. Now he has a great basketball IQ and he knows the fundamentals and he knows, you know, a lot of the ins and outs, but it's the chase down blocks. It's the behind the back through the legs. It's that 3-pointer that he should not take that he fucking drains. It's the
no look 3 that I saw the other day. That
exactly.
was just like,
it's the dunking on every
so
7-foot
saucy.
white guy that the NBA has ever put in front of him. It's just, you know what I mean? Like those are the things about LeBron. Now I want to get to my 3rd and 4th real quick because I don't want to take up all the time.
No, we got all
It's
the
not
time
about
in the
taking
world.
up the time. It's just that like I've already talked about LeBron and Kanye. Stephen King.
Yeah.
Stephen King for me is like, out of my Mount Rushmore, if there's a number 1, it is fucking Stephen King. Stephen King has been, and now this is one of those things too, where the universe put it in my path, but it didn't necessarily choose him. The universe put all these books on my mom's bookshelves. Okay, Dean Koontz, Jonathan Kellerman, John Grisham, Tom Clancy, all those guys.
Big names.
And those, my mom was a popular book
The
reader.
best.
She liked the popular stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. But for some reason, out of all those books, and I read all those guys too, they did not stick with me. Dean Koontz a little bit because he's got some Stephen King qualities. But for some reason, I picked up Carrie and I picked up Cujo. And I was like, this is it. This is storytelling.
Yeah.
This is, you're taking the normal, the average, everyday, and you're making it supernatural. You're making it something that is just, it's like Christine. It's a fucking car. There's nothing, the car didn't get zapped with fucking ghost juice. It just is. It's just a fucking car that kills people. Cujo, it's just a dog with rabies. You know what I mean? But there's just an element. He always has this element to it that is the supernatural, the unknown, the darkness of the everyday. And that, man, dude, I don't know what it was about Stephen King, but I've read every single book he's ever written at least one time. Some of them 4 or 5 times. I think my record is I've read Tommy Knockers probably 6 times.
Nice.
I love just the way that he tells a story,
Yeah.
the unapologetic shit he does.
Yeah.
Like he'll just, he's got a clown. Okay, clowns. Oh yeah, scary. Clowns are scary. What a trope. That man's. If you read it, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. Now, he also takes chances with that too. He puts things in his books that you're like, ooh. Hey, oof. That's a little fucked up, Steven. That's a little dark. That's a little like, why would you write that? That's a child getting murdered, or that's kids doing things that kids shouldn't be doing. But I respect, just like with Kanye, I respect the authenticity of that art. Like he is writing that not because he thinks, oh, this is going to be a great scene. He's writing it because he's channeling that creative energy.
Yeah.
And that as a writer, I finally accepted that I am an artist, and part of that artistry is writing. And as a writer, I
love how you said that. I accepted it. It's a burden being an artist.
For me,
you have to accept it.
For me, that's how it feels.
It's a responsibility.
Because it is a responsibility, because you're creating something and giving it to the world. And if the world doesn't fuck with it, like you have to accept
that's
that.
a reflection of
you.
you.
It's a reflection of you. You're responsible for that.
Yeah.
I could talk about Stephen King all day, but I want to hit my 4th because it's going to surprise the both of you. Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, I never saw that coming.
Stanley Kubrick.
Wow. Never even heard
I
it.
thought about Tarantino, but Tarantino doesn't quite do it for me because Tarantino's a little too like blood gush. You know what I mean? Stanley Kubrick, it's about that authenticity again, but it's also about like that unapologetic artsy fartsiness to it. You know what I mean? Like, I love that shit. You're talking about Kanye earlier, and you're like, it's just too like artsy. It's just too like, he's just out there,
all over the place.
Out there almost for being out there's sake. And with Stanley Kubrick, go watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. That shit's out there, dog.
The most, it's
just
still
whatever
to this
idea comes
day,
to my head and I want to run with. I just think that I think it's cool. I'm just gonna do that. I'm not gonna ask any questions.
To this day, 2001 still has one of the weirdest opening scenes of any movie,
and one of the weirdest endings.
That's true.
So I mean, but the middle is a fucking fantastic space film.
Yeah.
It's fantastic, but the beginning and the end make almost no fucking sense
at all.
And then I look at something like the crossing of my 2 genres, like Stephen King wrote The Shining, Stanley Kubrick made it into a film.
Cool.
I love both of them equally. I
feel
cannot tell you that I like the book better than the movie or the movie better than the book because I love both of them as separate pieces of a whole. And I know that Stanley Kubrick was a little left field because I'm not a director, and with LeBron, I'm not a basketball player.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the work that he has done. As a person, I don't know anything about Stanley Kubrick as a person. He could be a shithead. But the art that he's created and put out to the world, I fuck with it so heavy.
That's what I've noticed is for you, it's about the art. It's what it seems like. Like you said, you everybody that you were talking about that you look up to them, it's because of the way that they express their art form, whether that be basketball or movies or writing or
I see
music.
the vision too.
Yeah,
I see the vision.
Yeah, like you resonate with the way that they present their art, and like you said, I think that calls to you in your ideal, because I think, and I don't know, you tell me,
because I want to be there.
You want to be that hero. Yeah,
I want to be
unauthentic,
I want to be unapologetic. I want to be authentic. I want to make what I want to make without somebody else being like, yeah, but John, I don't think that hits. Sorry, but that's what I'm making.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
And
if
it'll
it don't hit. It don't hit.
Because
because this is what it is. Yeah, facts. Yeah, and I think that's true. Because with that, just with the art shit, belief, action, results. Like Tony Robbins talks about that because that shit works in everything. I just wanted to give y'all that tip as the listeners. Like
My first time hearing that, and it really
soaking
it,
that in
it
a
hits,
little bit,
yeah.
because if you do believe in your art, right, and you say this is the shit, you know, just because, like you said, Kanye, whatever, like I made this is the shit. Things that I make are the shit, right? You take actions, you make the thing that you think is dope and awesome, and you put it out, and then that result ends up reaffirming the belief, you know. So then it, like, you know, turns out to be awesome because you believed it was awesome, and then now you definitely believe your shit's awesome, so you take more action. And then I think that's what builds into the types of artists like that are like Kanye, where they're not afraid to take risks, you know. Like they really have had that cycle work for them so many times in the past that they know that if I think it's good, it's gonna be good, you know. Like I've proven that over time that what I think is a good idea or a good expression is a good expression. But super cool. You're right, I definitely didn't see that Stanley Kubrick thing, but just because I haven't heard you talk about him in the past.
Well, it's because like I don't want to choose two music, and it's not that I don't want to, it's just that like it feels like they're fighting for the same position,
right?
So like I can't choose two musicians in my head, because as much as I love Mike Skinner from the Streets, and if you guys haven't checked out Mike Skinner or the Streets, I highly advise hit the Wikipedia page and look at some of his discography, some of his other works. Amazing music.
He's your honorable mention.
He's my honorable mention.
Yeah.
Same with Tarantino. I look at someone like Kubrick, and he's just more artsy, and he's more what I want to be, which is like, you know,
sophisticated.
That's the word I'm looking for. More sophisticated.
Quentin Tarantino's the flashy,
He's a little more
gory,
pop.
the out there guy. I mean, but the Stanley Kubrick is a refined. It's like it's a sophisticated, hard to understand kind of artsy.
Yeah, that intelligent.
It's like that
art.
French artsy rather than that like, you know, Jack Pollock. I'm just gonna splatter paint.
And still with LeBron, you know, like my other favorite players like Zydrunas Ilgauskas. He was a center for the he played for the Cavs. He was a center. I liked him because I resonated with him. He was a big giant Nosferatu looking white dude, and I just you know, I felt like he represented me in some way. Like I saw myself on the court.
Like
you know
if I
mean?
played basketball, I'd be Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Because I always loved the position of center. I just wasn't tall enough.
Yeah.
And then, you know, with Stephen King, like there's other writers. You know, Dean Koontz was a one that I've probably read as many Stephen King books as I have Dean Koontz books, but Dean Koontz was just too pop. He wasn't as he was more for the audience.
I was giving
less
you
for
one
himself.
honorable mention. You took it off.
I have
all 7.
I have 4. I
You
have
got
an
a
A team
runner-up.
and a B team. I have a full bench on my round. I have Mount Rushmore, and then I have Mount
And just
Crushmore.
in case any of them motherfuckers slip up and start doing some fuck shit, you can be like, go ahead and pull him
if
down.
Kanye
Gear up, you're in.
If Kanye makes a country album, Mike Skinner's up.
Mike Skinner, get your ass in
Get
there.
your ass in there.
That too experimental for me.
So I didn't.
No
Like I
longer
said,
resonates.
you know,
That's
I've been thinking about this a lot, which is why I have like 8 motherfuckers.
Yeah.
But I think this is a great exercise,
Me
and
too.
I cannot wait to hear y'all's Mount Rushmores.
Well, I'll just keep it going in line in the thing. So, mine are awesome too, of course. Right? They're the best men that the world has to offer.
Titans of industry, kings of their respective fields.
As I started listening to yours, because this is actually the first time we've ever done this. I mean, I've never heard y'all talk about y'all's. It's not like something I'm bringing from, you know, the Rod the Planner side. I've just been thinking of this idea newly too for myself, and I noticed that all of my people are mindset people, but that would also make sense because that's who I aspire to be. You know, I'm constantly trying to develop myself as a human, right? Like I don't have an artistic creation. I always talk about how I'm trying to win like Michael Jordan, but I don't. Championships are in my head. Like that's what I keep saying. Like there's no external thing that I'm chasing. It's like an internal game that I'm playing with myself, and I'm trying to win that game, and I want to win it badly. And so Michael Jordan is that to me. Michael Jordan is just the embodiment of winning, of just seeking winning. You know, I have that in me as a ambition, if you want to call it that. It's not even about that. A lot of people want to do a lot of grand things, but like I said, to just pick a game and say I want to win this game resonates with me because I want to be a winner too. And some people don't like that because some people don't like the competitive nature of humanity, you know. But I think that that's just a fact of life. Like, if you don't like it, I understand, and it sucks sometimes.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, if you don't like competitive people, you need to stop being binary. because that's a spectrum.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mac. That is a fucking great point. People are too binary.
Yeah.
People are too binary. They're like, oh, I don't like him because of, this
He's
one
competitive
quality.
or something.
You know what I mean? And like, that one quality is not an on or off button.
Mm-hmm.
It is always, everything is a fucking spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Everything. Everything's so true. So true.
But you need competition. And that's why people like Michael Jordan rise to the because people resonate with competition.
Mm-hmm. It's just like you need people who don't.
Yeah,
you
you
know,
need
like,
cooperative people too.
cooperative
Yeah.
people too who do like, and that would be probably where he faults sometimes. He's a little too competitive, right? Like it's too much about the winning. But that's only because again I'm more of like an ideal person. Like the game I'm playing is a game of empathy, so it would make sense that I would not want to negate the empathy side of it just for the winning. Right?
You can't win an empathy by not being empathetic.
Yeah, right. So, but that's Michael, and that's a new one for me. It's funny, like you said, how you find your heroes or how they come to be. This whole conversation started from the first, what's the work of art that shaped you? And that was because I watched The Last Dance and literally changed the whole trajectory of my entire life. Like I went from not really giving a fuck about basketball and or Michael Jordan at all to watching that movie, seeing who he was. It was like you watching that finals game or something. I was just like, fuck, man, like this me. Like this everything I'm trying to be in that category, And so I watched that. Now my background of my computer, my phone, everything. I practice basketball daily. It's not about the basketball, but I just, again, you start doing things. You start taking on habits that you start rapping, you start writing, you read, you do things that are in keeping with your heroes too. So anyways, Michael Jordan, all about the winning. My next one is Drake. Drake is my now obviously I love his music. It's really dope, but I'm not really a music purist. Like I'm not an art purist. Like I don't give a shit. Like I just like what I like. I could be. I'm more songs, right? I can listen to anything. I'm like I like that song. I like that song. I like that. I don't like that song. I don't care who it's by or whatever, right? But to me, Drake, I consistently like his songs. Like I like almost every song he's ever put out. I'm like fuck with that, fuck with that, fuck with that. All his albums, fuck with them. But for me, it was more again listening to his music and listening to the character that he was embodying or trying to portray through his music, which was this ultra confidence, like a swag. It's again a winner's type thing too. He likes to win, obviously, but it's about I'm the best, like it's more like how you feel from being a winner, like winning the things, and again like not even about winning sometimes, just how you view yourself. He views himself as a very valuable and desirable and awesome person. And I like to do that too. Like I'm constantly like, I'm the shit. Like you can do this. You're the man. Like you are capable or quality or whatever, so I just, that self-assurance of being like,
he's not a tortured artist. He 100% believes in himself.
No, he's just 100. Yeah, right. And he's not like, he just 100% is, I'm confident. Maybe he's not actually, I would imagine that he's, but that's the persona that he puts on, and that resonates with me because that's me too. Like I also think I'm the shit. Now I don't think none of you guys are not the shit as well. That's my caveat to that. But I've been called conceited a lot throughout my lifetime, and people think of me as that type of person sometimes when they don't know me well. But my caveat to that is I think I'm the shit, but I also think you're the shit too. I think we're all the shit, and it's just some people see themselves like that and some people don't. I'm one of those people who sees themselves like that regardless of, like kind of you're saying, like regardless of what you think, regardless if you'd be like, he a corny dude, he sing and he rap, or he whatever, he's corny. Because Drake is kind of corny too, right? Like he's actually corny when you watch him, but he still moves with the confidence like he's not. And that's me.
This is a confident corny.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's me. I used to always say I'm king of the nerds. You know what I mean? Like I'm a nerd through and through. But I'm confident in that, and that like changes that whole thing for me.
It's
so
like positive self-talk.
It is. It's positive self-talk, and that's just where I fuck with Drake. It's positive self-talk.
Yeah.
If it's winning, then Drake to me is positive self-talk, which is a huge thing for me. My next two are my fictional characters. The first one is Forrest Gump. Yeah, Forrest Gump,
That's
the guy.
a really good one.
Yeah. Maybe if you want to call it the movie or whatever, like because but it's that character. And for me, it's that life. If that is what was done, like the life lived. When I watched that movie as, I don't know, I wasn't a kid. Who knows how old I was? But when I watched that movie, and you watch it a lot because it would come on TV all the time, and I'd be like, after a while, I'm like, hell yeah. Anytime I seen it on the TV guide, I was like, clear my schedule. I'm watching Forrest Gump today. But here's a man who started off at a handicap, as a sickly handicap too, which is something that I was, and so he starts off sick, and then in spite of that, though, he lives one of the most incredible lives that you could ever imagine.
He met Richard Nixon.
You know what I'm saying?
He taught Elvis how to dance.
He became like fucking amazing at ping pong. He joined the military. He started a business. He raised a family.
Medal of Honor.
He got a Medal of Honor. Right? And so they took that trope to the ideal. Right?
Shrimp entrepreneur. This man,
when everybody else could when nobody else could figure it out, he came hauling with all.
He survived that storm and then got all the shrimp.
Damn,
and he saved his superior's life.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
And then built him back up as a real man.
After he was he came back and saved. Look, and I'm not even talking about that's all the greatness that he did. Right? That's cool that he excelled in all that. That's fun. But for me, it's the attempt. We talk about this all the time.
The vision.
The fact that, dude, how hard it would be for us if you were a millionaire shrimp captain dude or something, for you to walk away from that. If you were, it's just to be like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna go run around the country.
Yeah, I'm just gonna run across the entire United States.
Fuck, bro, that level of freedom. It's freedom in a sense, more so than it is anything. The freedom to be able to go anywhere, do anything, to be open. When somebody says, "You want to play this game?" You'd be like, "Hell yeah, I want to play this game," and then you just get good, and you ride like he never though throughout the whole movie. If you watch, he's not asking. He's in total flow. The whole time he's in total flow. He's just going with it. He's just like, gotta run? All right, I'm gonna run. Gotta go to war? Fine, I'm gonna go to war. Gotta, you're doing this, you're doing that. And he just, all right, bet. I'm gonna find a way to excel. And that was me. That's me. That's what resonated with me. I was like, I literally have made entire life decisions. I left the military because I sat there one day when it was time for me to make my decision. I said, all right, well, how you gonna Forrest Gump it if you're a 20-year military guy? Like, at the end of when they're telling my obituary, telling my story, writing my book, doing whatever, they're telling my hero's journey, and he was in the military for 35 years.
Exactly.
I can't do that. It doesn't even matter if I was the king goat. He was an amazing war guy. But it's just like, so he just did the military thing the whole time. Like,
just war, huh?
Yeah, he was just military.
Like, well, he made some songs.
Yeah.
And, he made some films and wrote some books, but it's like.
But I wouldn't have done any of that.
Army.
I wouldn't have done any of that. That's my point. I wouldn't have done any of that. I would have just been army guy. And either way, that's why I do the songs and the books and the
movies.
Travel here and the move here. I move all the time, and I'm always open to next experience because I want to do it all. I want to be that guy who, like, when I come to a restaurant, I'll order the appetizer, the sampler plate for myself. I like to try a little bit of everything. That's me. So that's why I picked Forrest Gump. And then my last one is a curveball. Maybe you guys knew this, maybe you didn't. I don't know, but
getting excited.
Yeah, it's Jesus. Jesus is my fourth one. Jesus is my fourth one.
Why not like Buddha or any of the other?
Don't know shit about Buddha.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know who Buddha is, but I grew up with Jesus' story, so I know who he is. And gotta drink some water before we get into this one, boy.
Yeah, let me get my mind right.
I'm a little bit parched.
Let me say a Hail Mary before we get into this
these are your ideals, right? Like I said, these are people you think you're like.
Right.
And I do think I'm like him. The thing that you like about Marcus Aurelius, I fuck with that too. But the thing that I fuck with the most is the conscientiousness. The conscientiousness, the focus on others, right? And not that I don't think I'm a god. I think we're all Christ-like, like, right? A Christ is just an ideal, right? If you look at the story of the Bible, Jesus is the ideal of that story, right? And I would argue he's the main character, and therefore your whole thing is to put yourself into his shoes, right? This is why you put the bumper sticker, "What would Jesus do?" You're constantly trying to live your life like Jesus.
Yeah, you're not saying what would God do.
Right? No, because you're not God, right?
You would smite people. You don't want to smite people.
But you can relate to Jesus because he's a man, right? And people, that's why I can't get down with the religion, right? I'm like, why y'all worshiping this dude? Like, I don't get that part to me. I don't worship Jesus, like he's a dude. He was a great dude. He was probably the best dude. But you worship the God in him, right? And so same thing. That's what I see with him. So it's not like a God complex of like, oh, I think I'm all powerful. And dude, here's a man who spent his whole life caring about other people, literally devoting his entire other life to healing others, to talking to others, to lifting others up. Everybody else stones you. This man will come and lift you up.
Yeah.
This man will sit with you.
Everybody else
this man will
hates
teach you.
lepers, but he'll
Right?
come touch
He'll
you.
come and touch you.
Yep.
He'll teach you how to fish. He just gave of himself constantly. Forsake everything else, all material gain. Like people say, he was probably a wealthy man. I'm sure like, the level of influence that he had, I'm sure he would have been. But if he's even a real person. But my point is, even as the ideal, that to have not have sinned, right? And to me, sin is transgressing against my fellow man. You know, it's like hurting people, taking things from people. Even when it's like you taking your love from them, you know, like to punish your people in your life and stuff. Anyways, it goes deep. That one is obviously goes deep, and I've thought about it often. I don't talk about it much because most people aren't gonna understand that. You know, if you say
they have a stigma
of being like, you don't do that, you know, like that's sacrilegious type shit. To me, I'm just like, I'm looking at it as an archetype. I'm looking at it as an ideal, and I'm like, dude, I want to be like that. Like at the end of it, I want people to say he was a good ass dude. You know what I mean? Like that's that Marcus Aurelius shit. Like I know I'm a leader. I know I'm a person of influence and will be over time and stuff. And when my whole book's written, I don't want none of that Bill Cosby shit in it. Yep. You know, I don't want any of that fuck shit in it. I don't want none of this. Oh, he was a dope dude, but he was also shagging his fucking best friend's girl, or fucking stealing money from the company, or he turned into a cult leader.
Yeah,
you know,
he
like
created Lutheranism,
right.
but you know
he
really
hated the Jews, right?
Yeah.
I don't want none of that shit in my story. When I'm all said and done, I want him to be like, yo, he did everything. He was the shit. He fucking, you know, he gave it his all. He tried to win, and he was a good ass dude. And like that's the book for me. That to me is the perfect person, you know, and I'm trying to be like that. I'm not like that, obviously, or else, you know, I'd be on that fucking Mount Rushmore.
You're striving for
but
it.
I'm striving for it every day. Like those are the people that I've seen out in the world, or the stories, the examples that I've seen where I'm like, to me, these are the qualities that measure up to like a good dude, and that's what I'm trying to be out in the world. It's like this good dude, you know.
I feel that,
that's
man.
my Mount Rushmore. Yeah.
I feel that those are some great ones.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Those
Those are powerful.
I really,
Yeah.
and mostly just because mine are 100% on that like personal development tip, right? And I think that's what makes them cool.
Absolutely. I mean, his were all focused
On
on
that
art.
on that art
Yours
tip.
is
That's
all
what I'm saying.
about,
Like
like,
I would
personal
love to be on
development.
that art tip.
Yeah. I mean, mine are all, as you guys kind of explained yours, I realized that mine are all have a similar theme in the sense of like they're all, in my eyes, they're all men that are overcoming faults in themselves. It's like there's stories of struggles between the lesser and the better within every person, kind of. And I think that, so my first one obviously is Marcus Aurelius, and I don't know when it was, but at some point I found his book Meditations, and was learning about Stoicism. And I mean, it was after we got into personal development, because I really wasn't into philosophy at all before that. But somewhere around that time, 5 years ago or so, I read Meditations, and just the way that this man would, I didn't know it, but for my whole life I had been using self-reflection, and I was unconsciously using it, so it wasn't as effective as I feel like I implement it today. But when I read Meditations, I was like, he's doing what I do. Like, he's doing the self-reflection shit, like asking yourself questions and just sitting alone with your thoughts and trying to figure out, like, I would have fake conversations with you and with mom and with people in my life, and I would try to imagine what you would say to me and how I would reply to that. And like, I would have these I would have arguments in my head.
Yep.
And then that would allow me, like, I remember one time specifically, we were still living in Austin, and me and you got in this big tiff or whatever, and I just went for a walk, and that's what I normally do. And on that whole walk, I was having this imaginary argument that I decided that I was going to walk away from in real life. But I had it in my head. And then after I had it in my head, I used that exercise to kind of figure out where I was going wrong and like where I was like being an asshole.
Because you have to explain to yourself in your head what you would say and why you would say it.
Exactly.
Yeah, like I deal with that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
It's hard to explain in words. I feel
it deep.
But
dog.
yeah,
I
it's
feel
like a
that shit
deep thing that I feel like I've been doing for a long time. And when I saw Marcus Aurelius, I saw a man that was doing it consciously. And I was like, oh, like you could just, like I would only do it when I was in heightened states of emotion and stuff like that. But he was doing it from a place where your emotions are taken out of it. You can just rationally look at yourself and say, well, what's happening? Because during those conversations, obviously, the person I'm arguing with is always in the fault in the beginning. It takes an hour long walk for me to get to the point where I'm like, all right, well, maybe I was, you know, like, you know, and even then I still don't really like it when I get back, but like, you know, like I feel bad. But then, so yeah, Marcus Aurelius, and then to come to like, after I learned about his philosophy, I started studying about his life. And I mean, god damn, I mean, he's regarded as one of the only 5 or so good emperors of the Roman Empire. And I mean, you think about the level of temptation to be a person who can literally, your word is law. You are the divine in the physical world. Anything you want to do,
unquestioned,
literally unquestioned. Nobody can do anything about it. And yet to have these accounts of him being such an upstanding person,
is the greatest. Dude.
Yeah, like just it makes you look at at least it made me look at myself and say like, wow. Like, and yet you with your measly temptations, and you can't even, you know, stomach avoiding them. And this man literally could do whatever he wanted and was still acting in a way that many would regard as honorable. And so that was my main one. He's like my number one, really. My second is Roanoke Zoro. And the quality that's associated with him is loyalty. And that really has to do with the way that he comes into the show. He's actually a pirate hunter when he's introduced. He actually hunts pirates for the Navy as like his job, if you will. But his dream is to be the best swordsman ever. And the reason he wants this dream is because the girl, when he was a little kid, he was training at the village where he lived. There was a girl that was training with him, and she also wanted to be the best swordsman in the world, but she couldn't because at the time, women weren't really allowed to have stature like that. And so, and then one day she has this tragic accident and dies, and he takes on her dream for her. And he's like, I'm going to be the greatest swordsman for her in her honor. And he's captured. He's kind of held captive for trying to help this little girl. He put himself in her position so she wouldn't get in trouble. And Luffy ends up, you know, through a lot of a shortened story, but basically Luffy ends up trying to recruit him into his new pirate crew, which is kind of anathema because he's a pirate hunter. And he doesn't really like Luffy to begin with. You know, he's kind of the complete opposite of him as a character. But as the story progresses, he agrees, and as the story progresses, they become very close. And the amount of loyalty that he has for Luffy and the dedication he has to the crew and Luffy's dream of becoming the king of the pirates, you know, there's multiple times where he's willing to sacrifice his own life to keep Luffy alive and let him achieve his dream and stuff like that. And so that's kind of the quality that I really embody in Zoro, is like the loyalty and the selflessness, in the sense of like, he's not, I feel like when you watch him, he's a lot like me in the sense that like, I'm not very personable and stuff like that. And I don't really do a lot of like helping and stuff like that. And he's kind of the same way around the ship. He's working out, he's sleeping, eating, you know, he's not really like involved in the activities per se. But when the shit hits the fan and it's time, you know, it's time to nut up or whatever, he's there.
Three swords.
He's got 3 swords. You know, he's ready to fucking go. He's carries one in his mouth.
Do dirty work like Rodman.
And do dirty work like Rodman. And so like, that's kind of what I, you know, when it really matters, he shows up big. And I think that kind of, in the same way that I've gone through school, you know, like I didn't do homework or anything. I just show up and ace the test. I don't know why. Like that's just something that I did. That's probably because I wasn't challenging myself back then. But that's kind of how he operated. But like, it was always about the others. It was never about him being like, you know, he kind of stated that he's going to be the greatest swordsman of all time, but then that's really kind of like put on the back burner the entire show. You know, it's not really about him anymore. He's just part of a team, if you will.
I mean, even like you said, that his first dream was a taken on dream from the other girl.
Somebody else.
Yeah, so he's exactly. Like more so like a facilitator of dreams than he is like somebody who's on a mission to accomplish
for something of their own.
That's cool. Loyalty.
Yeah, so that's my second. My third is my second fictional character, also a samurai-esque swordsman. His name is Zatoichi, and he's from this very long running. It's like it's the longest running movie series in Japanese film history. It's The Blind Swordsman, and it's this blind masseuse guy who's also like he's like the best swordsman ever, but you wouldn't expect it because he's blind. I mean, everybody knows the blind swordsman, but he, in this rendition of that character, he's one of the most humble people I've ever seen. Like, he's always constantly aware of the fact that he's a part of the Yakuza, so he doesn't try to live this honorable, flashy life. He lives in these kinds of like lowly rags, and he's like always out there like on the road helping people, and he's never trying to really extract a lot from the world for himself, but just trying to put in for it. He's like, look, I'm not worthy of all of the things that can befall upon a person in their life, but I can at least be around to help people along their way. And it's hard to explain because you really have to watch the films to understand it. It's a very subtle aspect of his character. But I mean, I highly recommend it. If you're into like foreign films and Japanese films, definitely samurai films.
It feels like it's got like an Ip Man feel to it too.
It does. It has like this Ip Man feel.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's 26 of them.
Oh, okay.
So there's a 100-episode TV series. But it's the really cool part.
Yeah, he likes that real long.
Yeah,
shit.
I mean, One Piece is also very long, 950 episodes.
He likes to go deep.
And in the same way, like, I've read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, I don't even know, like 10 times, 12 times. I listen to it like once a quarter, basically.
Mine's Think and Grow Rich over the.
Yeah, that's a great book. And I have it written down. I had to pick my fourth one because I wasn't really sure who it would be, but I had it written down in my. Hold on, let me find it.
Yeah, I was really thinking of my fourth one this whole time. It was,
mine changed at the last minute.
Mine was moving around a lot.
I got it. My last one is Jocko Willink. Jocko Willink is just the embodiment of like discipline for me, and I feel like discipline was severely lacking in my life when I was younger. And as I look back, I feel like there's a lot of potential that I didn't achieve because of my lack of discipline and my lack of awareness at, the potential that was in me. And I think that Jocko's voice has entered my brain as the voice that forces me to do the things that I don't want to do, but that I know that I should do. Yeah. And it's his voice that I hear when I'm thinking like, oh, I should do, anything. Like I should eat some bullshit. And he's like, that's bullshit. Yeah. Why would you eat that? Yeah. That's not food. And like sometimes I override it, but I feel like he's been this sort of ever present, like watchman, watching over me. Like he's on post, and I can rely on him to just be like, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And I'm just like, you're right, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that, and I know I shouldn't do that. So why am I standing here about to do that?
He's that guy standing over there like.
He's kind of like my guide, my guru or something like that. Just trying to keep me on the path, as they say. And I think that they all play into it in the sense that they all have flaws in their characters, even the fictional ones. But it's the attempt to rise above those faults that it really resonates with me. Like the rising above the temptations that Marcus Aurelius must have had, rising above the easy road that you might take without discipline, rising above the arrogance or the expectations that you have when you lack humility. Stuff like that. Like that's kind of the idea, like rising above your lesser self is kind of, and I mean, you really awakened that in me when we got on the whole personal development journey. If it wasn't for that, I'm not sure where I would be, but it's really shaped me in such a profound way.
Same.
Self-discipline.
I found it too.
Yeah.
Self-discipline is one of the biggest qualities in your life. Like I see that in you, like your level of self-discipline, your commitment to self-discipline. So it does not surprise me that all four of your characters are exemplary versions of people who have self-discipline, even the fictional ones.
Yeah, that's true. Like you said, and one thing I noticed about, dude, well, first of all, it's crazy exercise. Like as I'm listening to you guys, because I know you guys very deeply, and like I'm listening to you guys express your characters, I'm just like, yep, that's him. That be him. That be him. Like, even listen to my own, I'll be like, that be you. Like, you are in a version of your Mount Rushmore, you know? You're trying, like you said, but one of the things I noticed about yours is they're all experts of their craft, too. Like, they're all the best swordsmen in the world. They're not just like, oh, I'm good with a sword. They're the best swordsmen in the world. The greatest king. That like
one of the greatest examples of self-discipline.
Yeah.
in Jock.
Yeah, that's right. Even that too. So, but they're just masters.
Arguably the best Navy SEAL.
Right. Yeah, he was
Chaco's
like
not
a
just a
Navy
Navy
SEAL.
SEAL.
He was like a
The
commander
Navy
and
SEAL.
shit. Like, he was like
Jesse Ventura's got something to say about that. Okay?
yeah, there's been some scrubbish seals too. Let's not get it twisted. But
That's
no,
David
and then
Goggins
even like
might-
you said, you're one of the most artistic motherfuckers. Like, before I ever knew, it's like you that introduced me to the concept of art. You know, like I have this trope where I have a lot of best friends who are multi-talented white guys. Right, that's just like their whole steez. My best friend's always white. Don't know why. Just is.
It's
Not
an
doing it on
observation.
purpose.
Yeah.
Just noticing it. And they're all multi-talented. They all love to do music and make art and write, and they're poetic, and they're just, for some reason, they're just art. And I think that's me trying to resonate with my lack of artistic self.
Seeking balance.
Right, exactly. Balance in those things. That's another thing that makes us cool as like friends and stuff. It's like all that. Like, you guys are not on my Mount Rushmore, but you definitely are inspirations to me in your own categories, in your artistic pursuits, in your pursuit of personal development. Those are things that I want in myself too, you know. So it's cool to, you know, I guess that's why we all resonate with each other at one point, though. But
Yeah, and you are the people that you hang out with. Like,
true. In some way.
I've felt so many things rub off.
Yep.
You know, from being part of this, like even just part of this podcast, even sitting down and doing this for 20, 25 episodes, you know, with 17 released. Like, every time we do this, I get something from that.
Yeah, same,
Yeah, absolutely.
same, definitely. Whether it be knowledge, like I said, I never even read a goddamn bill. So I sat down here or whatever, you know, like the things that we've been able to understand. So it's cool. Like you said, it's cool to think we're only 25 episodes in. Like, that's nuts. I didn't really realize that. Like, I mean, imagine our 100th episode or some shit.
I can't wait.
Dude, it's
I
gonna
know,
be
right?
great. I hope you can't wait either. So we
Stay
appreciate
tuned.
you, dude. Mount Rushmore's in the comments, right? Like, we
Yeah.
love to hear
Please.
what y'all's Mount Rushmores are.
Yes,
Like,
give us your Mount
like,
Rushmores.
honestly, I would love that. Drop that in the comments. Hit us up on Instagram or Facebook. But let's talk about it, man. But in the meantime, we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you again on the next episode. Peace.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this.